and I'm honored to serve as this weekend's MC and officially welcome you to the 11th Annual Women in Leadership Symposium at Bethany College. You guys have done a great job making a circle already. You listened so quickly, that was awesome. If we can bring this side in a little bit, or I notice it's really crowded over here, I don't know if we want to like shift a little bit so you're not like breathing on top of each other. If you share a connection with what is said, step forward and acknowledge the connections, then everyone steps back. The goal is to see how much more you have in common with those around you. And to start, we're going to ask Angie Beto to begin.
Hi everybody, so this is going to go really quickly. I'm Angie Beto. I graduated in 77, and my thing is I love music. If you love music, step forward. Okay, step back.
Hi, I'm Val Stevens-Knapp. I graduated with Angie in 77, and I love art. Anybody love art? Oh, step. All right, step back.
Hi, I'm Kathy Tucker. I graduated in 85, and I love wine.
My name is Rachel Whitfield. I graduated in 2013, and I'm going to do a fun fact. My fun fact is that I'm a fifth generation Bethanian.
I'm Chelsea Shenton. I graduated in 2011, and my fun fact is I live in Cleveland, Ohio.
My name is Hannah Samuel. I actually didn't graduate from Bethany. I'm Rachel's sister. And I live in Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Bethany Stickgrad, class of 2011, and my fun fact is I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. That's right. We love misery.
I'm Abby Garrison. I'm class of 2029, and fun fact is that I'm a college athlete.
Hi, my name is Jada. I'm class of 2028, and I love animals.
Hi, my name's Kaylee. I will be graduating this spring, and fun fact, I have 10 tattoos.
Hi, I am Katie Romiti. I graduated in 2012, and I'm an ordained minister. Nobody. See me for all your wedding needs.
Hi, I'm Melissa Bryant. I graduated in 2012, and I am a boy mom.
I'm Beth Martin. I graduated in 1988, and I love to downhill ski. Nice.
I'm Geraldine Hood Holt, and I am a self-proclaimed beach addict.
I'm Tatum Severe. I'm class of 27, and I'm a social work major.
I'm Myra Garcia. I'm a criminal justice major.
Hi, I'm Lexi Reed. I'm a senior, so I'm graduating this May. I am about to get my education degree and certificate, so if your teacher step forward.
Hi, I'm Janez. I'm graduating this semester and I'm a comm major.
I'm Kimura, I'm class of 2027, and I'm an older sister.
I'm Gabby, senior, so graduating in May, and I grew up on a farm.
I'm Billy Flaherty. I graduated in 1979, and I'm a retired lawyer living in Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Hi, I'm Anne Simone, class of 1979, and I'm a fine you.
Hi, I'm Leah. I'm a biology major, class of 2027, and I work at an animal hospital over the summer.
Hi, I'm Aziz Barassa. I'm class of 2029 and I play the viola.
I'm Lily Vinger, class of 29, and I like cheerleading.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm class of 2027, and I like to go to the beach.
I'm Liz Schubert, class of 2026, and my favorite type of shark is a hammerhead shark.
Hello, I'm Alina Arbogast. I'm a senior graduating here soon, and I love to read.
Hi, I'm McKenna Phillipson and I work with adults with special needs.
My name's Amelia Scott. I'm a senior, and I like hiking.
Hi, my name's Ariel, and I'm also a senior, and my favorite color is yellow.
Hi, my name's Emily Seibel. I'm class of 2028, and I'm not from this country.
Hi, I'm Amy Van Horn. I did not graduate from here, but I've been here for 20 years. I'm with West Lib, and I was an Alpha Z.
Hi, I'm Mary Pearson. I'm a senior here, so I'll be graduating in the spring, and I'm a godmother.
Hi, my name's Audrey Tobesman. I'm class of 27, and I really like to play video games.
Hello, my name is Adriana Brown and I am a senior graduating this May and I love to journal.
Hi, I'm Miranda Garcia. I'm class of 29, and I'm a first day.
I'm Stephanie Pulowski. I graduated in 2000, not 1979, which my tag said. And I traveled to India as a Bethany student. So if you traveled out of the country while at Bethany, step forward.
Hi, I'm Danielle Phillips. I'm class of 2028, and I really like the color pink.
Hi, I'm Gentry Naples. I'm class of 27.
Hi, I'm Gentry Naples. I'm class of 27. And I'm a food science major, and I really like to cook.
Hello, my name is Abigail Springer. I'm class of 28, and I'm the first of my family to attend Bethany College.
Hi, Fujiko Nito. I'm retiring after 41 years of teaching. But I love Bethany. I cannot leave. And I would like to promote the future growth of Bethany.
Hi, I'm Erica Petranton, class of 2009, and I love women's sports.
I'm Emily Petranton, Erica's wife. This is my first time in Bethany. I love sports and I love my life.
I'm Aiden Chugro, class of 29, and I'm a freelance photographer. I'm Maddie Kalbervik, I'm a class of 29, and I can speak ASL.
Hi, I'm Grace Padovic. I'm a class of 29 and I like to mountain bike.
Hi, I'm Layla, class of 29, and I want to be an interior designer.
Hi, I'm Liz Stevens-Tuning, class of 79, and I am impressed by the women of Bethany.
Hi, I'm Tanisa Madi Banks. You can call me Marie. I graduated in 2024, and I was an equine student, and I rode horses here for Bethany College.
Hi, my name is Elena Felter. I'm the class of 2029, and my favorite animal is a lion.
Hello, my name is Loretta Buell, class of 2007, and I am left-handed.
Hi, I'm Ariana Wayland, and I have an addiction to chewing gums.
Hi. I'm so sorry. I'm Ariana Ellison Lindemann. I'm a class of 2029. I'm a middle child of 7 and I'm from Montana.
Hi, my name is Annalisa Purdue. I'm a class of 2029 and I'm bilingual.
Hi, I'm Bella. I'm a freshman and I'm in the nursing program.
Hi, I'm Ashton. I'm the class of 2028 and I love iced coffee.
Hi, I'm Sharon Bograd. I'm the class of 1976. I think I'm the oldest person in the room. But at Bethany, if somebody asks me if I have children, I can say yes. Will all my babies step forward?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Chadwick, as my sorority sisters know me, Egan, and I live in New England now.
Hi, I'm Christy Howell, class of 2004, and I'm a twin. The other twins?
My name is Megan Tarbutt. I'm a librarian and a DJ on a commercial radio station.
I'm Toria Tolley, and I ought to be thinking a lot about my speech right now, but my mind is on, I miss my dog right now.
I am Tina Tolly McConnell, related to this one, and I was at Bethany 78, 79, didn't graduate, went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville and got an MBA, and I'm an antique dealer. I love antiques.
I'm Dr. Bill Frankel. I go as a class of 1977, and I am a second generation Bethanian. My mother and father both went here, and I'm a Kappa Delta.
I'm Connie Poirier, class of 1979. I'm actually married to another Bethanian who I did not meet until over 5 years after we had both graduated, who used to date Tori. And
Bethany, and we got married right here at Commencement Hall.
Hi, I'm Shaylee Hornak. I'm a class of 28, and I'm a sports studies major.
Hi, I'm Avery Askew. I'm class of 2028 also, and I love to decorate cakes.
Hi, my name is Peter Patterson. I'm a class of 2029, and I'm a dual athlete.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Aiken. I am a freshman and I'm an exercise major.
Hi, my name is Callie Wood. I'm a member of the class of 2027, and I am a member of Zeta Tau Alpha Women's Fraternity.
Hi, I'm Scarlett Foster, class of 1979, and I bake sourdough bread.
Hi, I'm Jessica Benedict, class of 2007, and I am a youth baseball officer and coach.
My name is Autumn Lynn. I'm the class of 2027, and I love to crochet.
Hi, my name is Shelby Kashali, and I'm a class of 2029, and I love to golf.
Hi, my name is Isabella Haig. I'm a class of 2027, and I'm allergic to the cold.
Hi, my name is Amy Giles. I'm also a class of 2027, and I used to be on a bowling team.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Kelly. I'm also a class of 2027, and I want to be a doctor.
Hi, my name's Addie Glazer. I'm also class of 2027, and I'm on the basketball team.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Faddish, and I graduated in 2011, and I'm not doing anything related to what I majored in.
Caroline Horvath, homecoming at Bethany. Hi, my name is Kelly Cheney, and I can and often sing the Greek alphabet.
Hi, I'm Carolyn MacDonald, class of 1979, and I just retired.
Hi, I'm Jessica McHenry, and I'm the class of 2026. I'm a K-1 scholar.
Hi, I'm Hope Fair. I'll also be graduating in 2026, and I'm a small business owner.
Hi, my name is Josie. I'm class of 2029, and Spanish was my first language.
I'm Jan Yudowski, class of 79, and I live in Manhattan, and you're all invited to come visit.
My name is Jada Carter. I'm a senior graduating this year, and I like to play the piano.
Hi, I'm Emily Winger, class of 2026, and I love sea turtles.
My name is Allie Barclay. I'm class of 2027, and I've changed my major 3 times.
Hi, I'm Grace Schweiker. I'm a graduating senior, and my family owns a donut shop that employs special needs individuals.
Hi, my name is Kylie Craig. I'm graduating in class of 27 as an exercise science major a year early.
Hi, my name is Sasha Savietova. I'm class of 26, and I like to play chess.
Hi, my name is Melanie Murray. I coach women's lacrosse here at Bethany.
Hi, I'm Madison Wagner. I'm a
graduating senior, and I'll be going to law school in the fall.
Hi, I'm Jamie Schaefer. I'm the class of 2027, and I used to do 4-H.
Hi, I'm Addison Mitchum. I'm class of 2029, and I want to be a corporate attorney.
Hi, I'm Lauren Piscatelli. I'm class of 2027, and I was in theater in high school.
Hi, I'm Sophie Diaz. I'm class of 2027, and I'm a lady of the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe Club.
Hi, my name is Natalie Rodriguez. I'm class of 2029, and I came from California.
Hi, my name is Valerie Zipala. I'm class of 2029, and I love to sew.
Hi, I'm Malia Toko. I'm class of 2029, and I like debating politics.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Scott. I am a social work major, class of 27, and I have held an exec position in every organization I've been in.
Hi, my name is Maddie Buxton. I'm class of 2026. I was going to say I got engaged on Bethany's campus, but I haven't seen Sage step forward yet, so I am a recipient of the Scarlett Foster Women in Leadership Award.
I'm Ashley Wagner, and I'm a Zeta alum.
Wow, how much people? Oh my god. Hi, my name is Bethany. I'm a chemistry major, and I'm from Argentina.
Hi, my name is Brooke Oler, and I'm a biochem major at the class of 2026, and I have plans of becoming an orthopedic surgeon.
My name is Mallory Payton. I'm class of 2026, and I'm going to vet school in the fall.
Hi, I'm Lauren Cooper. I'm class of 2026, and I used to competitively swim.
Hi, I'm Karen Wagner, class of 86, psych major from Long Island. I got my doctorate in psychology last year, like 20 years ago, and I have my motorcycle license.
I'm Melanie Sinclair. I am one of the associate provosts at Bethany College and the chair of the social work criminal justice department. And my students know I love fun facts, right? So this is like a dream. But my fun fact is I married my college best friend. I did that too. My name is Kathy Baker Brosh, and I am an alum of class of 86 and a faculty member here in biology.
Thank you, everybody, and you can make your way back to your table. And you may get friends.
pause to honor the extraordinary legacy of women who have led, persevered, and reshaped the course of history. We remember pioneers like Ida Darcy, a chemistry major, who in 1880 became Bethany's first female graduate. We honor Bethanian Virginia Dare Aberholt, whose remarkable intellect contributed to decoding the intercepted Japanese surrender message in August 1945. And we recognize the namesake of today's event, Anne Wilkin Troubadour, who graduated with a degree in economics in 1954, pursued a legal education, co-founded a law firm, and served with distinction on Bethany's Board of Trustees for more than 2 decades. Anne exemplified success not only through her professional accomplishments, but also through her unwavering commitment to mentorship and the advancement of women. She understood that true leadership lies in lifting others, and she used her influence to create pathways for those who would follow. In that same spirit, Scarlett Foster carried this legacy forward, founding Women in Leadership 11 years ago, and continuing the vital work of empowering and supporting future generations of women leaders. Thank you, Scarlett. There are countless women who have walked these storied halls and left their indelible mark. Tonight, we also turn our gaze forward to each of you gathered in this hallowed space. The legacy of this moment rests not solely in remembrance, but in possibility. What will your legacy be? How will you use remembrance, but in possibility? I just said the same sentence twice, sorry y'all. How will you use the information from this weekend's symposium to develop your leadership? How many lives, particularly women's lives, will you shape, inspire, and uplift in the years to come? Let this be the foundation of this weekend's conference, lighting up, encouraging, empowering, and educating women of today and tomorrow. We are delighted that you chose to join us this weekend, bringing together leaders, students, alumni, and professionals for a dynamic program centered on the theme, winning in the workplace and beyond. This year's focus emerged from a growing recognition of the evolving and increasingly competitive nature of today's professional landscape. With the rise of artificial intelligence, transforming industries, heightened expectations from employers, and shifting job opportunities, navigating career paths has become more complex than ever before. Whether you are entering the workforce for the first time, considering a career transition, building your own business, or reflecting on your next chapter after a completed career, our hope is that you leave this experience feeling validated, informed, and connected. May the insights gained and relationships formed here serve to strengthen your leadership capabilities and empower you to pursue your goals with confidence, wherever your path may lead. At this time, please join me in welcoming Bethany College President, Dr. Jamie Caridi, to the stage to share a few words with us this evening.
Let's hear it for Sage, who graduates from Columbia next month. Her star continues to skyrocket. I asked, did we have to go through your agent to have you back this evening? She is impressive. It is an absolute honor and blessing to be invited back. As I understand, one of only 2 men allowed in the Women in Leadership Conference here this weekend. But Jason tells me at least our bathroom line isn't as long as yours, so there are perks to it. It truly is a blessing and honor to be with you tonight. I think you'd all agree the most important event and most successful event we have on our campus each year is graduation, right? Because that's why we exist. That's what we're here to do. But hands down, the second best event we have at Bethany College is Women in Leadership. It is one of the most well-organized, thoughtful, insightful, caring, mission-fit weekends and experiences we have. I think there's literally a far distance between this event and any other that represents what we are and who we are as an institution. So I want to thank the committee members. Would you please rise if you helped organize this event? Let's give them a round of applause. This takes a lot of work. Angie Beto, please rise. Angie, where you at? We made a mistake at the institution about a year ago. We said, Angie, can we put you on the payroll, which means we pay her like $5. And we said, we really need to organize events better across the country so Jason and I can go meet our alumni. I'm never on campus anymore because she has us running all over the country. We also have a couple of trustees with us, Kathy Tucker and Michelle Meow. Would you please rise? And we have a number of college staff and faculty with us, and they really are the ones who are most in relationship with our students. Please rise, faculty and staff. And unfortunately, my colleagues on cabinet could not be here this evening, but our cabinet includes 5 extraordinary, strong women. It's the most women ever to lead Bethany College in its history. So I don't think it's any surprise why Bethany College is succeeding right now. And honestly, I don't tell them what to do. I just get the hell out of their way and try to let them do their thing. And we win when that happens. Just a few brief items I want to share about the state of the college. You're not going to have to hear long from me tonight because there's far better speakers, including somebody I want to acknowledge, Tori. Thank you for being with us. With us tonight, Tori Talley, our keynote speaker. The weekend we really do have some momentum going here. Last year when I spoke to you, we said we were hoping to have one of our largest classes in near-term history. And last year we welcomed our largest class in 15 years with 312 new students to the college. And that's very exciting. But this year, we intend to beat it because we are on track to have somewhere between 350 and 400 new students on campus this year. And for the alumni among us, especially those in the 70s who like to talk about the largest classes ever, we got our eyes on you. The largest class ever was 432, and we're coming after you. But you know what? Success is showing in a variety of different ways. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a very successful day that many of you participated in. It was our Day of Giving, which in 24 hours, we asked people to support Bethany College. On average, historically, we've had about 50 people give to that event. This year, we had 300 alumni and friends of the institution give to the event. It's our largest day of giving ever. Special thanks to Jason for doing that. As far as new programs, academic programs, we've got some exciting things going on. I heard it in the icebreaker. Several of you, we have nursing for the first time in our history. That's great. We have criminal justice that's due in the last 2 years. And starting next year, we have exercise science. And those 3 programs alone represent 50 of our new students that are coming into the college. So we're very excited by that. Also, which all of you can participate in, including our graduates that are walking across the stage in a month, Bethany Online. We like to say Bethany education is so important. It doesn't need to stop after 4 years. And not everybody should have to come up the hill. So Bethany Online, which we launched last year, we expect to have over 50 paying graduate students across the United States in this next year. So that's pretty exciting. And I hope to see some applications from all of you. Why do students choose Bethany? They choose it for 4 reasons. One, they want to make sure, obviously, we need to have their major, right? So that's why we're creating the academic programs, and we're excited by some of that. And that's important. That's a necessary thing. 2, it needs to be affordable, right? The cost of higher education is not cheap. And I'm proud to say that 100% of our students get financial assistance here at Bethany College. And it's critically important for our students, most of whom are first generation, and most of whom are considered Pell eligible, meaning they don't have a lot of money to be able to go to college. So we're very proud of that. Thirdly, it's about being in relationship. And I would say that is ultimately the most important thing that it's about. And nights like this symbolize what it means to be in a relationship. That's our secret sauce, right? That's what makes us distinctive. It's the authentic relationships. And that third one ties to the fourth one. And the fourth reason I think Bethany is winning right now is because, and it's to some degree, it's winning for us, it's making us distinctive, but it's a little bit sad as it relates to higher education in America. Bethany is a place where all people are welcome. No one person has a corner on the truth. We don't care if you're conservative or liberal, gay, straight, black or white, rich or poor, a person of faith or no faith at all. There's a place for you here. And we don't want you to just bring part of you to Bethany. We want you to bring all of you to Bethany. That's what college is about. Unfortunately, the world's gone a little crazy right now, and we have an expression around here. We don't do crazy around these parts. We just try to help each other make each other the best version of themselves. So at any rate, I loved seeing the icebreaker. Whoever came up with that, great icebreaker. I thought it just showed extraordinary individuality and beauty and diversity in the people that are in this room. And don't be offended, alum. I particularly like hearing what the students had to say. And I want to tell the alum, these students are winning. I mean, they are winning. The future of our country is in good hands. I mean, I had the chance this week. Is Kate Botts in the room? I don't know if she's here. She's a senior. She's going to be with you throughout the weekend, but a lot of the students in here knew her. She's a basketball player. I had a meeting this week in Pittsburgh with 15 other college presidents, and Kate is a 21-year-old woman came down to represent not just Bethany, but to represent women across the entire President's Athletic Conference. She was the representative for all the women that play sports in all the colleges in our conference. She killed it. So when you see Kate this weekend, please give her a pat on the back. And I thought, this is what makes Bethany so unique. So congratulations to all of our students, especially those that are graduating in just a few weeks. I'm going to leave you with this, and it's a request. One of the things we've been saying lately around here is women thrive at Bethany. They just do. Now, I'm not just saying that as like a nice slogan on the night of women in leadership. I'm not. Like, if you look at how our women do from a curricular standpoint compared to our men, some worries about some of our men, to be honest with you, but our women are excelling from retention, persistence, graduation, job placement. So women thrive here. And I already told you we are on track to have record enrollment here next year. Now, we have one crack. We have one issue we're dealing with. Not enough of the world knows that women thrive here. So when I look at the chemistry and the makeup of our new student class, we do not have enough women coming to Bethany College. So of our 244 deposits, not that I count on an hourly basis, as we're tracking next year, right now 81 of those deposits are women. Now part of that is, don't be alarmed, part of it is we have football, right? We have some big sports teams, so that's part of that. But I need your help. Because I said this is already about relationships. And this is where the power of the students in the room is actually more powerful than the alumni in the room. I'm not calling you old alumni, by the way. But relationships matter. We cannot be the secret. Right? If you've had a phenomenal transformational experience, you have, not only do I want you to, you have a duty and a responsibility to open this door to other women that don't know about us. I need your help. We need your help. So I'm asking everybody tonight, just one thing. I want you to think of one person or one family you can refer to Bethany. Because I don't want to have record-breaking enrollments and have that still be a fact. Okay? And my cell phone number is at the bottom of my email. I'm accessible. I will talk to anybody at any time. I'd like to say about anything, but about most things. So I need your help on that. With that, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me back. It means I didn't do a horrible job last year. And God bless you. And Tori, again, in a special way, thanks for being here tonight.
Please join me in welcoming Triatoli to the stage.
You know, I was nervous and then I realized I really love what I do. I went out on a story for ABC just a couple of weeks ago. It was great. So, first of all, I want to thank you all so much for having me. It is so weird because I graduated here. I look around, I go, Commencement Hall, this is amazing. Scarlett, I didn't realize, I should have read up on it more a little. Thank you so much for coming, starting this, and for all the people who put this together 11 years. That is absolutely amazing. And I'm just so proud to be here, especially as a Bethanian. I still can't get over it. Before I get started, the ones who are students here, please look around, and I want you to just really, really, really remember this place. And remember Commencement Hall. They'll think about it forever. Here I am, I feel I walked in tonight, and I feel like I was just here. And it's been 50 years, actually more. Yikes. 5-0? Okay, anyway, let's forget about that. Okay. Yeah, just remember it. This is for the people who are classmates and people who are alums who have already started in the working, out in the working field. How many of you work in an environment, or let's say when you, any job yet, where it's predominantly male? That's more than I thought. That's. How about people who chose careers and you ended up working predominantly male? I asked Scarlett, get that hand up there. I remember the Asphalt Association in Charleston. Yeah, all the people in my class were working in jobs that were predominantly male. I started in a job that was predominantly male. And so many people have asked me, okay, what was it like starting and working in television back in the olden days? And that's like the 1980s. I think I had my first job in 76, but 1980. And it's pretty easy. And it's probably very similar to the ones who raise their hands. How many of you have seen the movie Anchorman? The Ron Burgundy story. That was exactly my newsroom, my very first newsroom. And Ron Burgundy was my co-anchor. And he was pompous, and he knew it all, and he really would, the way he felt about himself kind of inflated his ego even more. And men have a tendency, present company excluded, I'm going to be talking about some secrets here. Okay. But men tend to, when their ego goes up, it gives them more value, and unfortunately, a lot of people around them thought they had more value because they talked about it. We didn't talk about it that much. We were, we just did the job. In fact, we were doing our job and a couple of other people's jobs too. And you remember the character, those of you who saw Anchorman, and by the way, that is required viewing at some point in your life, especially you young ones, I'm telling you. Veronica Corninggood, I think was her name, and she was the female anchor. She was really good, but never got the recognition. And that really was what it was like. And it was as goofy as that, too. If you think about your workplace, the people who have already started, you know all the characters, and it was very similar to that movie. Appearance definitely mattered more. It mattered more than ability. We would get critiques after the newscasts, and with women, we were judged on a totally different level on those critiques. And I think that in the workplace, in the 80s, 90s, and even today, unfortunately, you get judged sometimes just not fairly, even with all of the things in place and all the rules. So this is something that it has continued in every occupation. How did I get out of it? Well, I simply had to learn to get tough. And it was never anything that I couldn't handle. But as women, we have to step up more than the men. And we have to kind of take advantage of any opportunity we could to get ahead. And sometimes people even noticed. A lot of times they didn't. But at least we were able to continue. And we just got used to it. I've talked to a lot of alums over the years. You know, we come back for homecoming. That's still a big deal, too. I really like coming back for homecoming. Please, can we get rid of some of this heat here in West Virginia, Helen? Anyway, I'll tell you a little bit about what I did when I got out of Bethany and how I started and what I encountered, because it's not only is it similar to what the alums went through, but it is similar to things that you may face, or that you could look back on and go, I'm glad that women stood up and made it more possible for us to have a better life here. My first job was in West Virginia, and I was just sitting on a beach in Rhode Island and got a call because I wanted to, I graduated here and I had worked at the radio station, and I was so excited. I got a job in a rock station, the top 40 rock stations back then, the FM, in Huntington, West Virginia, and it was WKEE. And I was so excited to be there because I was the only woman in the newsroom. I was also the only woman because all the DJs, of course, were male. And they were all crazy, and it was a lot like WKRP in Cincinnati. It really was. You had the disc jockeys who, you know, they would disappear and you'd see, I can't tell you how many times this happened. We would see EMTs or something coming in where he had gone in the stairwell during a long record and passed out because he had smoked pot and cracked his head. You know, it was just like constant. And but it was always a lot of fun. And being the only woman in the newsroom, I had to kind of, you know, just really get in there and fight for my own. And I did. I did anything they asked me to do. I was there, and I covered the news and got to know everybody. And there was, it was really neat when I got the job. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I came to town, and I was driving up the road, Marshall University, and I'm like, okay, here I am. Everything I owned was in the car. And I saw a fine new house. And I walked in to say hi, and they were sitting there. This was in the middle of summer. School wasn't even in session. And there was the president of, at the time of FIMU, and some of the members, and somebody from the school. And they go, we're trying to find a house mother. And I said, I'll do it. And I was hired as a house mother. And I was younger than the people, a lot of the people who were there. But I was a house mother when I graduated, the first summer I graduated from Bethany. So, and I got in trouble because I had a boy in my room. Bethany just taught us, you know, liberal, private school, you know. Anyway, so I did that, and then they had an opening in our newsroom. They said, we're going to expand. I said, oh, maybe they can hire one of my really good friends, Rick Jackson. And he was in my class. And you may remember, he graduated in 78 as well. And he ended up, he worked at television stations, and he started at WGRF, I think. And he went to the CBS overnight news and was anchoring. And when I was anchoring at CNN, we would call each other. It was kind of cool. But anyway, he started working with me as well. But I was still the only girl. And we didn't mind being called girls and boys back then, but after a while it got old. We were women. I then was able to get a job in television and in West Virginia as well, because you will find women, when you are out there to get jobs, it is a matter of being in the right place at the right time, but also knowing people and, just stepping up. And there was an opportunity, a TV station in Charleston needed somebody because last minute they lost a reporter. And I happened to know the names of they go, oh, do you know the mayor, and do you know where City Hall is, and that sort of thing? And I said, yeah. And they said, great, we'll hire you. And that's how I got hired in television. So, it wasn't a master plan, people, and that's how life is. Don't think you can start out with this master plan and it all works out perfectly. I just kind of fell into this, but I also placed myself where I was ready. And the guys were too busy fluffing their feathers to notice that there was an opening, and I got in. So I worked there in Charleston, West Virginia. What's funny is, I would drive from Huntington, I would shoot the stories, because they didn't have a videographer for me, and then I would edit, and I would do everything. And this is back in the old days of, it wasn't so bad with cutting tape and gluing and crap like that, but it was, we still were editing on machines. And I would sit down, and then I would do the news, and I'd run my own teleprompter, and that was for the state capital of West Virginia, and that's how it was done back then. And nowadays, that's kind of what the TV people do. They are called multimedia journalists. So I didn't hear any journalists in the audience, but if you were going there, this is what, it's all coming back around. You have to be independent. And so whatever field you're in, learn as much as you can, because you're going to be doing it all. It was great. I eventually worked my way up to being the 6 and 11 anchor, or co-anchor, because of course they had this wonderful, the man, the Ron Burgundy type, and his name was Stan Jason. And I swear I know that's not his real name, but we only knew Stan Jason. And he got paid twice what I did, at least. But it was okay. I was there. And I started trying to get the next job in Cincinnati. I couldn't imagine going to a big city like Cincinnati. So I kept putting it in. I was so excited. And I was married at the time, and we were like, oh, I got an interview. I get to go. And I got hired in Cincinnati the same time as this one of the most wonderful people, smartest and best person I've ever worked with or ever met. The man who is just the guy in television, in anchoring, who should be the example to set. Not necessarily what he did later, but Jerry Springer. I was hired by Jerry Springer the same week. He was hired to do commentary because he had just been giving his opinion. He was mayor of Cincinnati, and he was on council, and at the time I think he was running for governor or state senate or something like that, and they hired him, and they hired me as a reporter. And I worked with Jerry for 8 years, and I ended up anchoring with him. And he is the smartest, most wonderful person, or was, that I've ever known. And his talk show, the way he got like that is they wanted him to be another Phil Donahue, and you young people probably don't even know who Phil Donahue is, but he was a talk show host, and Jerry just couldn't do it because he had a very funny sense of humor, and he laughed, and he was very self-deprecating, and so that's how he got to his show. But as far as being smart and successful, he was an attorney, he participated in the freedom rides in the 60s down south. He was just an amazing man, and knowledgeable, and that's who really, I was very fortunate to work with somebody like that afterwards. He actually was very supportive of me to get to CNN and through my going away party, so it was so nice. And then CNN came about. That was in 1990. And it was the only, can you imagine, it was the only cable news network? That was it. It was CNN or nothing. And we thought, everybody who worked at television stations or media, or anything, thought that was the place to be. That was like Oz, if you made it there, because it was serious news. They did 24/7. It was exactly what you wanted. And that's the thing, if you're going into something, pick out what the best is or what you want, set your goal, and then just go, I'm going to somehow get there. Because there was no way, I don't know how I got there, but I did. I kept calling, and I kept sending tapes, and I did everything I could. That was my constant thing, is I wanted to go to CNN. I wanted to get out of local news and go to CNN. And finally, I got hired because the vice president of CNN told me he did it just to get me off the phone. and I kind of understood that. He brought me to, I would finish anchoring the news in Cincinnati. I would get on a flight. I would fly to Atlanta, and I didn't tell the company I was working with. I didn't tell Cincinnati that I was, applying for a job. You just don't do that. They don't want to lose you. And so I would go there, and I said, okay, I'm ready here to do an audition. And they go, great, you go on and in a couple of hours. And they put me on the air, my first visit there. And I had to fly back for Monday showing up in the newsroom. And I had been on the air. And I come in and they're like, were you on CNN? And I did that. After that, I did that for a little while because the Cincinnati Reds were, they were in the World Series, and I wasn't leaving until I found out if they won, and they did win. So I stayed through Reds October, and then I moved to Atlanta. So I got to work at that dream organization, and it was still predominantly men. There were lots of what they call, I say sexist jokes. There were lots of jokes. And you kind of just learned you were tough, and you kind of brushed it off. You didn't let them get away with it. Lots of women kind of sat back and got scared and were victims. And I understand. I understand what they went through and how bad it was. And I think I don't know, I just made myself very tough, and I would throw it back at them, or I would say, give me a break, I would just be one of the guys. And I didn't think of it as one of the guys back then, but that's essentially what we did. And how many of you have been in situations like that where you were one of the guys? Yeah. And I wasn't, it wasn't that bad. I got ahead. In January, I had my first live shots. They were sending me to Washington to start doing live shots. And I got there and they said, okay, we're sticking you with this guy, he's going to train you. And then I got something in my ear, they called and they said, it's the Persian Gulf War, we're going to war. You're going to be live. Once again, no training. You're going to be live, can you do it? Or should we bring somebody in? I go, no, I'll do it. And I started going live, and we would I would tell them what was going on in Baghdad, and I would just get information in my ear and then be spitting it out. And this went on for 3 days straight. I would get a 4-hour break, and that was it. And we would talk to TV stations all across the nation. It was so cool. And I remember my finest night was when I got they go, the next station is WLWT, and your anchor is going to be Jerry Springer. So I got to talk to him. It was really, it was great like that. So that was my background for the lessons I learned, okay? And this is where every single one of you can get the same things that I found out are like the secrets to getting ahead, especially for women. I learned women tend to, we pay attention a lot more, I think, than men sometimes in the workplace. So I saw my coworkers that were female. I know the people who really got ahead, the Diane Sawyers, the Jessica Savages. Boy, was that, I haven't said that in probably 40 years. Those women, it was incredible. They got that. They got up there by paying attention to what others didn't. And that's something everybody can do in their careers. When you were going forward, it's not necessarily a matter of, us against the men. It's about paying attention to things that leadership instincts and journalism instincts are the same. It's doing and listening and communicating. And that's what we learn to do. As a newscaster, we were subjected to something called the post-mortem. Every night after our newscast, when I got to on the national level, and even Cincinnati, we would come downstairs and you would be critiqued. I think the best thing in the world is if people could be, every night in their jobs, would be critiqued at the end of the day. Or constructive criticism. It's constructive and it's how I learned. Because what they told me is, they go, oh, okay, it was a great newscast, but, and then the list of the things, 9 out of 10 of the issues or what they wanted me to change was not based on what I was saying. It was based on how I was saying it. And that was for both men and women. Both of us anchors. They would say, well, your eyes, you were looking, but it didn't seem like you were connecting. And I was always told that speaking on television is a one-on-one communication. You have to look in the camera and pretend that you're talking to one person. Think of one person and you're talking to them. And that's how it is when you're in a crowd. And I hope I'm being able to talk to, I'm trying to look around and look at, I would say something and look at a person's eyes, and that makes me able to talk, and I feel like I'm in a conversation. And when I'm not thinking about that, or when I'm not looking at people's eyes, that's when we kind of fall a little flat. And so I would get a critique about that. And of course I got a critique about, oh, my hair, or what I was wearing, and the guys didn't always get that. So, but it wasn't about necessarily what we were saying. Another example of what women face that men won't, and this again is across the board in any workplace. I was covering, for CNN, the LA riots. I was one of the first reporters on the ground because I happened to be on vacation in Las Vegas. They go, can you get over there? I'm like, okay. And I went to Las Vegas, went from LA to, from Las Vegas to LA. Still, I'm kind of sad about that. But anyway, I was in the middle of the riots and there was shooting and cars were just, being set on fire and buildings and people were so mad. And one of our producers in the little trailer that we had, he'd gotten beaten up while we were doing live shots. It was such a scary situation. We were surrounded by people who really had a lot to, get angry about. And they were yelling at me and, somebody had to stop her. She was like, oh, you're just a Barbie. You don't know what's going on. And I thought, I purposely worked so hard on those live shots to make sure that I told them everything that was going on and that I interviewed them and that I got all sides. I was always fair. And I was so proud. I was walking and showing the building behind me on fire. And when I finished, they said in my ear, great live shot. That's amazing. I can't believe you got all that information in those interviews. And I go, great. And they said, yeah, the switchboards or the phone lines are lighting up here. And I go, really? What are they saying? And they swear to God, they said, everybody wants to know what color lipstick you're wearing. They wanted that color. I could not believe it. And I said, nobody said, wow, that was informative. Or they didn't. No, it was about, no, but we think you did a good job. Yeah. And next time, comb your hair before you go on, something like that. So that's what it is in every job. Unfortunately, you have to, there are some things about being female that you can also use to your advantage. I could tell, I started to, after all this critique, I was able to realize all of the ways that people who are really, really successful, like I would cover presidential candidates, and I'm like, I could get down to the point where I could tell who was going to win by the way they carried themselves, by the way they spoke, by the way it had nothing to do with the message. You know how you're always told, okay, say the message, circle back to it. No, they would be very simple. They would say it. They would pause. They would walk around. Hillary Clinton was amazing at this. great speaker. No matter what your politics were, there were great speakers. And she would come in and she would look around and she would go, and she'd wave to people. And she wasn't waving to anybody, but she was so confident. She would just, oh, and she would speak, and she would have a mic with her. And if I guess I could have taken this one. And she'd take a few steps and stop and speak. And then she'd go over here and stop and speak. And she'd look directly in your eyes. And I just remember thinking, she's really good. Though she was a great speaker, there were so many great speakers, and they all had in common what I was being taught. When I get to the CNN level, they have professional coaches come, constantly. We are told, we're advised on what colors to wear, we're advised on this, that, the other thing. And we are coached to such an extent on how we say it and, how we present ourselves. And these are all things that I wish every one of you could get, because that's what mattered. That is what mattered. What I base what I do now on is tons of studies and research, endless research, that has been around since the 1960s. And Dr. Albert Marabi, he came up with this, it had nothing to do with TV, radio, or media, but he came up with how do people get information? How do they decide if you are professional, if you're not professional? How do they do that? And he found out that 93% of what people took away from a speech like this, if you have a speaker in one of your classes, what they took away, 93% is not based on what you're saying. It's how you're saying it. It's your eyes. It's your voice. Your voice counts for a lot. And your face, your body language. And I was able to take that and use that to see how other people did. And I got to the point where I would be interviewing somebody, and I would see that they were sweating. I'm like a CEO of a major corporation, and there had been an explosion. And he would get in front of the media and say, everything's okay. Yeah, we're okay. Yeah, we had a couple deaths, but, it's going to be all right. And, the press ate him up because he wasn't saying. And what was amazing was, he was a good guy. Things were all right, but he couldn't say it right. And I wished, it had to go to. So it was, those are the things that you can take away for communications, journalism, and everything you do. It's about how you speak, how you say it, how you react to situations, and how you are able to get ahead. We still are going to have to work with men. We really are. Things... no surprise there. Things are different now. I was just talking to the reporter from TV. Things are very different now. You guys, social media and AI. I don't like AI today. Thank you. And because of AI, when you go to my website, as of today, thebusinessoftalk.com, you're going to see it under construction because AI messed it up. My web guy goes, AI, we'll just do this. And I'm like, no, it doesn't sound at all. Yeah, it's got all the keywords, but no, you lost personality. So I took it down. My sister was running around today getting business cards printed because she noticed something I didn't. I've been walking around with business cards with the website spelled wrong. It was missing a T. I was thebusinessoftalk.com. So, got that fixed. If anybody wants a business card, they're fresh off the press. Although now I understand you scan and that, QR code. We'll get that later. But it's a different world, and if you can just be yourself, AI is taking away that personalization. However, me see if I can find the survey or the research. I picked a bunch of research. Okay. Face-to-face office communications have been declining, obviously. We no longer have non-verbal clues to read the room. Okay, when you have a meeting with your boss, or when you're getting hired, or getting interviewed, and you're talking to someone, you have to be able to see their expressions. You have to see them and know what they're thinking. And nowadays, so much is done virtually that you're losing that. So, and text messages. How many of you have misinterpreted a text message and thought, "Oh my God, they're mad at me"? Exactly. Okay, that's what we're dealing with now. Social media makes you feel really, really, really bad. At least it does me. And you won't find me on Facebook. I have to have an account because if I go out for ABC News now, and we're in a hurricane, you've got to be able to pull up and see where the hurricane is and who to interview. But that is something that I feel kind of sorry for you guys because you don't have, we didn't have that then. We didn't have Facebook to make us feel bad because everybody's having great vacations when we're working our butts off. And the psychologists also found that emojis, people are using emojis more in business communication. And this is weird. Somebody here said they love factoids. I loved factoids. The University of Ottawa psychologists, women thought that women using emojis in office communications were less competent than men who used emojis. Isn't that weird? But it's still around. Executive they didn't advise you not to use emojis. They just were like, well, y'all know. So when you log off that kind of stuff, you take away the power. If I had been on social media, I don't think I would have been the strong person I am. I really don't. I think I would have been, intimidated and weak and, like, oh, I'm not as good as that. Don't ever compare yourself like that. It's just, fight through it. AI, I don't know if it's here to stay. I don't know where it's going to go. It might be like digital media where, everybody thinks that's the answer to everything and then they realize that it's non-personal. But you come back to it, hopefully. Just, if you have to use AI, remember what I said. 93% of what you're getting across is not based on what you're saying. It's how you're saying it. And how can you say it if you're on social media? How can you say it personally, with eyes, and communicating in that one-on-one, and that sort of thing? How can you say that when you're doing everything, writing it, and nobody knows what you're thinking? So remember that when you're trying to get something, a job, when you're trying to get, I used it to get my son to behave. I would look him in the eye, very calmly, put on that professional voice, and I would say, no, you're not going to do that. And he would swear I was yelling, but it was all about that. But he remembered everything because I made that eye contact, so it helped me in raising children, for you moms out there. And it just made such a difference. So human communication, that's what I'm leaving you with. Human communication, folks, okay? Human communication. Please keep it up in everything you do. You're going to run into the same things that journalists and news anchors and doctors and office workers, we all have the same thing. We've got to be able to communicate humanly, no matter what. It's more important now than it has ever been. And it's a non-masculine skill set that we have. We have that empathy. We tend to listen more. Keep that. That's our superpower. That's what you use. Listen and respond and stand up for yourself. Have that delusional confidence that I think is what got me my first job. You just have it and be strong and don't let yourself get psyched out, because I know that you've been in these situations. I think that business leaders, professionals, that's another survey I sent out, or study, they're called upon now to become more vulnerable, which is good news. See, there is some good news. Professionals, your bosses, are being asked now to show emotion. A little bit. Not as much as President Sargent. You were really good. And you showed emotion, you were very proud. And you were very, you were energetic about Bethany. And that's what they're asking. That's what we're seeing is coming back, is that kind of enthusiasm when you speak. And enthusiasm about something and caring about something. So please care. Because they're finding that it improves interpersonal communication, interpersonal interactions, and it builds leaders. This is where women, you can shine. You can shine. You can do better, present company excluded, than the men. You can really shine with this. And management, business, I heard a lot of you are going into sports fields. You're going into places where you're going to be there with men who are very, very Ron Burgundy-esque. So please keep that in mind, and you will have just as many great adventures. I hope you fall into as many great things as I did. I was very lucky, but I think, you also create your luck. Just be there. Be there. That's what Bethany gave me, by the way. If I had gone to a big university, no offense, my sister graduated from the University of Tennessee, but she was here at Bethany. She was here for a year. She just had a lot of fun during that year. She didn't get to stay for the whole other, but she had a great time and did well. And then went to the University of Tennessee, where it was great for her. But you also have an opportunity, being from a small private college, to have these crazy adventures. I think it happens to people at Bethany. There's something about these halls. Talking about interpersonal communications and how we disclose emotions, disclose things. Okay, to wrap it up, you have heard me. You've learned a little bit about me. I hope I haven't taken up too much time. I'm going to, let's see if you can guess a couple things about me. Whereas we went around the circle, I seem to get into these games all the time. You've played 3 truths and a lie before? Okay, so we're going to do 3 truths and a lie. I'm going to read 4 things and you figure out which one is not true, okay? All right. Was locked in a hotel room with Cheech and Chong. Walked naked or partially naked through downtown Cincinnati in a snowstorm. Absolutely at Christmas time can't stand the smell of fruitcake. Or spent time in a jail cell with a serial killer. Fruitcake's the lie? She wins! Give her her prize, Tina. Give her her prize. I love fruitcake. Right now in my freezer, I have 20 Claxton fruitcakes, no lie. And how many do I have in the car with us, Tina? 2. I've got 2 more. So, yes, all of the others are true. And by the way, the naked thing, there was a snowstorm. So that we could get to the studio, they put us in a hotel room. My husband was with me. He packed up while I was in the shower and took every bit of clothing I had. Except for my coat. So I had my winter coat. And I had to walk down with all the people through the skywalks I had to go to the department store and buy a whole new set of clothing, underwear, everything. I had shoes, I had my snow boots, and I had a coat, and that was it. And they kept going, "Oh, Miss Tommy, don't you want to try that on?" I'm like, nope. So, yeah, all of it's true. Thank you so much. I hope And if you have any questions, you can talk to me later. I didn't want to take a picture of your time because I'm used to like very short segments. Anybody have any questions about anything?
My cursor so that I can
Here. She said, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? Give me an example that you have run into, and I'll tell you, because there's various, like what? And when there's somebody who is doing... Imposter syndrome has been around. It just got a name recently. And it is very difficult. What I would do in that situation is make sure, because I've done this, that the people peripherally around know the truth. I'm big on truth. I was the biggest in school. I was always the tattletale, always. So whether it necessarily worked or not, I made sure that people, not direct, people who dealt with it, I would somehow get the truth out about them. And I would, because I've seen too many imposters go to big positions. It's not fair, so be a tattletale. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you again. Remember all of effort. We're going to be here 50 years from now.
Thank you again, Tria, for your inspiring words. And one more round of applause. All right, and we're doing things a little different this year, and we are actually doing the scholarship presentation tonight. So I would now like to invite the Scholarship Committee Chairwoman, Beth Martin, and members of the committee, Geraldine Hood-Holt, Val Stevens-Knapp, as well as tonight's honorary chairwoman, Scarlett Foster, to join me on stage to present the Scarlett Foster Women in Leadership Award. While they're making their way up here, oh, we got lights. It was getting a little dark. So, as a former scholarship recipient, I personally know the value of this award and recognize the extraordinary accomplishments of tonight's scholarship recipients and of all the Bethany women who applied. The decision is based on an anonymous review and scoring system, and one of the highlights as being part of the scholarship committee is to learn about the exceptional applicants. We are certain that all of them will accomplish much in the future, wherever it may take them. The scholarship endowment is funded by Bethany alumni, and many of you in this room this evening have faithfully supported the scholarship and Women of Bethany. Thank you so much for your support. And this year, the committee actually chose to recognize 2 scholarship recipients. Although unusual, they feel strongly that both of these young women are strongly deserving. The first scholarship is a $500 scholarship, and it goes to Maria Catarina Ricavieta, who hails from Argentina. A double major. A double major in chemistry and biology, a member of the lacrosse team and Zeta Tau Alpha. She plans to pursue an MBA at Bethany in preparation for a career in pharmaceuticals. Kata, you're already up here. Hey. Of the $1,000 scholarship is Amelia Scott. An interdisciplinary psychology and arts education major, Amelia plans to follow in her grandmother's footsteps and become a school counselor. She will attend the University of North Carolina to work towards her master's in elementary school counseling. Congratulations. So, before we walk over to Phillips Hall for dessert, we want to again recognize Bethany's leadership, Dr. Jamie Caridi, President, and Jason Kogler, Vice President of Advancement, for their unwavering support of the Women in Leadership Symposium. We also want to recognize the extraordinary work of our Bethany marketing team, Associate VP Emily Luke, Kaylin, Angel, and Brand Shaw. Thank you so much for the many hours you've dedicated to this project. I'm only 2 years out, but I feel like I'm dating myself. They're not called Parkhurst anymore, but I would also like to thank the dining staff for helping provide this weekend. And we would also like to recognize and thank the Wheeling Park High School String Quartet under the direction of Laura and Ruby. We are delighted to have them share their talents with us this evening. And just a few quick reminders. If you have not done so, please fill out the feedback form and leave it on the table for us to collect. You should all have pens, and it was under the program, so if you haven't seen it yet. Doors tomorrow will be opening at 9 a.m. for networking and the breakfast buffet. The bookstore will have a pop-up shop on site for you to browse. And student organizations will be tabling to show off their accomplishments. That programming will start at 9:30 a.m. And please join us in the Phillips Hall Lounge right across the way for more conversation with all of our speakers, alum, current students, more wine, dessert, and networking. And alumni, you're now welcome to start making your way over to Phillips. Please pick up a gift bag as you leave Commencement Hall. Students, I think, are staying here. We're going to try to split up some of those are the pink gift bags. They're right there by the door. Don't miss them. There's some good stuff in there. So alumni are going to make their way over there, and then students will go just a little bit after, get everyone kind of settled first. And thanks for coming to day one. We'll see you all tomorrow. Our expert panel discussion on winning in the workplace and beyond. Today we are joined by 5 incredible industry leaders: Erica Petrin, Dr. Kelly Cheney, Lindsay Faddish, Christy Howell, and Michelle Meow. And this discussion will be moderated by Julia Tolley and followed by an open Q&A session. And thanks for being us all.
This is a wonderful opportunity for all of you, because we're going to hear about winning in the workplace, women in the workplace, and a lot of issues that if you haven't faced them already, you are probably going to face. And we do have some incredible people here. I'd like to start, you'll hear the names, you'll hear where they're from, what they're doing, just very briefly, and then we'll go from there. Let's start with you, Lindsay.
Okay. I'm Lindsay Faddish. I graduated from Bethany in 2011. I was an elementary education major, K-1 scholar, and I was on the equestrian team. I am now the director of global aluminum procurement and supply chain for a company called Arconic. I was at the icebreaker last night and I said I was doing nothing related to my major, so it's me.
Hi, I'm Erica Petranton. I'm a 2009 graduate of Bethany. I was a fine mean while I was here and a political science major. After Bethany, I went to the University of Pittsburgh for law school, and I am now practicing as a commercial litigator at a firm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Christy Howell. I'm a graduate of the class of 2004.
I was an economics major while I was here. I was also a 5U. I was on the swimming and diving team and ran cross country, so I kept myself busy. Once I graduated, I moved to Maryland, where I became an economist for the U.S. government, and now I am still working in economics. I'm a deputy division chief, so I'm in middle management in the International Monetary Fund. Somebody mentioned last night meeting their husband here, so I'm another one of those people. I met my husband here. We got married right here. We live in Maryland. We have one son, and that's me. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Michelle Meow. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm class of 2000. I played soccer while I was here at Bethany, made some of my best friends there, and with Zeta. After college, I moved out to the DC area for grad school, start working in the intelligence community in IT, and now I do cybersecurity for Deloitte.
Hi, my name is Kelly Cheney. I am a 2005 graduate of Bethany. My degree here was chemistry, so I spent a lot of time in that round building. I went on to medical school at the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine and then did my training with UPMC. I'm an internal medicine doctor, and then I practiced clinical for 13 years, and then last year I transitioned to a medical director for the UPMC insurance health plan.
Excellent. You probably noticed all of these careers are pretty much usually male-dominated. You are definitely, women are not necessarily the majority in these. I'll start. How do you deal with that?
Well, actually now there are more women going to medical school than men, so we hope that so we hope to turn the tables. But I will tell you, it does tend to still seem male-dominated. I know when I was in the hospital, I would walk into a room and everyone would say, "Oh, the nurse is here." Not a knock on nurses. We love nurses. But they thought doctor and they thought man. We are here to change that. So I, being a physician, went into it with goals. I went into it knowing my stuff, being confident, having male colleagues, and using them as an asset to me to get ahead. So I found that I took a male-dominated field and made it an advantage for me on here. I knew my stuff, I showed how well I could do it, and built on that.
Lindsay, you started out, did you say in elementary education? Okay, yeah. And went into something totally different. What kind of inspired you to go into this and change your career like that into something that is definitely a male-oriented business?
So the very honest answer is I needed a job.
There you go.
I could not get a teaching job. And there was this opportunity for temporary work at the time it was Alcoa, at their research and development site outside of Pittsburgh. So I took the job thinking it was going to be temporary. I was going to still look for a teaching job. And then I just fell in love with it. I mean, the supply chain is demanding. I was good at it. Supply chain is a lot of planning, being prepared. And I really liked it and kind of took off from there.
I think she just said one of the most important key takeaways is because there was a job. You may graduate from here and not necessarily get a job in your field and end up liking and loving what you do. How did you meet the men head on? I know you've got a lot of respect in your field. How did you do it?
You have to prove that you can do the work better. There are a lot of men, especially in manufacturing specifically, because I think women are normally turned off from that. They don't want to go put on the steel-toe boots and the hard hats, and I had to do all that. I wore the fire retardant clothes, I went into the plants, I was talking to the operators, I was not intimidated. You had to be confident, and you had to speak confidently, and you had to bring that to the table.
Erica, you are a litigator, so you have wins and losses, but how in the entire workplace, how did you win in your field?
Sure. So I think being part of all-female teams as part of those black and white wins in the courtroom are the most valuable wins for me overall. the law is still very much a male-dominated field. Similar to medical school, though, the recent statistics are showing that more females are going into law school than men, so I think the future is bright for women in the practice of law. But female mentorship in the practice of law I have found to be vitally important, and I've had those mentors include me and help to bring me up and bring me as part of a team that gets the win for the client. And overall, being part of those female teams for me is the big win in the entirety of my career. But I do also want to say that there have been great male allies. There have also been not great male allies, but there have been the male allies who make sure that when I'm part of that win in the courtroom, that either the client knows or the entire firm knows that I was part of it and I'm given credit for it. And I think that because that has been what has helped me in my career, I'm just trying to make sure that as I start advancing in my career, that I'm doing the same for younger female lawyers entering the profession.
Christy, you were in a field where it's all black suits, all dark suits, like you said, and mostly men in that. Erica brought up a point that we rely a lot, we have allies. But tell me about the ones that weren't allies. I imagine you had a lot of men or people trying to take you down.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have those males who maybe don't see the value in the types of skills that women bring. I was in the panel discussion earlier, and Jennifer, I don't know where she is, but she was talking, I really liked some of the things that she said about how women tend to bring more of the relationship building skills. And I think that this is something that as women we shouldn't undervalue, because also some of our male counterparts don't see how important that is, because we do a lot of that connecting behind the scenes. And I see this now in my role currently, where I'm a manager and I have my peers of other female managers, and we are the ones that get stuff done. Because we're the ones who are going and talking to each other and saying, are you dealing with the same problem? Let's come up with a common solution. And the men tend to be, again, we are always generalizing when we talk about gender, but the men tend to be more focused on like my deliverables and my project that's going to get me ahead, right? So the females are more like, how can we collectively come up with a solution to make this job or this thing we have to do easier for the whole team? And that's a lot of where I see the wins, so to speak, in my day-to-day is when I get to do that. But so yeah, some men are kind of get on board with that, and some unfortunately don't and like to push back.
But hey, that's okay, because you have wins.
That's right.
You have wins, and you also, it sounds like, are helping other women come up in this, and being that person who is pushing them up too, so that they're going to take over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things is sort of paving the way to make it more acceptable for other women. So, I had told the story about when I first started off, it was bankers black. Everybody had to show up in formal suits. The current managing director of the IMF, where I'm at now, she tells a story about how she came in for a meeting the first time she was there, and everyone was wearing black. She went out and bought a black suit jacket and came back for the meeting. That's changing now. She shows up to every meeting, her sort of uniform she always wears. She has a black base and the brightest, most colorful jackets she can wear every single meeting. It's a different color. It's never the same one. So, she's inviting that diversity into the organization, which as a multicultural organization, of course, we have to thrive off of our diversity.
Exactly, and as I spoke last night, it's not always fair, but appearance, we can't get away from it as far as female. And I gotta say, Michelle, when you walked in, and then I heard IT cybersecurity, and I'm like, how do you get in there and go, I'm a brain too, and I am in here, and I'm helping other women, and I'm doing this, and I'm the boss.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I never thought I'd be doing cybersecurity. I would have never thought I'd work for Microsoft or an IBM or a Deloitte. And the interesting thing about that is I've been the only woman in the room a lot of times. And I was a young woman in my 20s, and I was managing men that were, double my age. And what I found was that if I could focus on the mission, what we were trying to do, and then kind of look at different folks and identify their skills, like what they enjoyed, what brought them to work, and ask them about their passion, what they wanted to accomplish, and then bring teams together that way. And as I, matured a bit in my career there, I looked around and I was like, to be all men here? What is going on? So I actually made a consistent effort and work with HR to bring in women and diversity into my team. And I mean, I stripped names on resumes. I did things that we weren't doing there. And actually, it was kind of funny because I had a man that was on my team because the team's changed over the years, and he looked around and he's like, "Gosh, I feel like the minority in this team. I'm the only man." And I was like, "Yes."
Kelly, you're nodding your head. What were you thinking?
Yeah, exactly right. This is what we need to be doing. Myself also, my team that I work with is all women. I think, and when I started out in medicine, I joined a group, and my interview with the group was a man who took me out to a steak place and gave me wine and told me the fancy wine. And I was like, this isn't really an interview, but I feel like it was. He was looking at my appearance, and this is what he looked for, and I did get the job. But one of my first patients I had was a male in his 60s, and he came in and he said, "You know what? I came to you because all of my men friends are going to women doctors because we listen." He was like, and the study showed that outcomes were better. We listen, we go in, we sit, we form a relationship with them, and we don't want to generalize, men don't do that, but we do that when we're in our job, our workplaces, so we need to continue to promote that. We have that, and we have that extra to give that you don't always see with the other gender. So we need to continue to do that and continue to grow. But my team is all women. We're all women, and we're proud about it.
Erica, you have one who wants to, how have you brought the female aspect to that? And I see you nodding your head as well. You've been through it.
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, I was brought in as part of teams by either a male ally or a female ally, and now I'm in a position where, I get to make decisions of building parts of teams, and I think
bringing in women?
And bringing in a lot of women, and it's not just my counterparts who are also lawyers with me, it's about delegating to, the staff who is a vital component to everything we do, certainly in my profession, I'm sure across the board in all professions. But also taking the time to train women, and not just throwing them out there to sink or swim. It's about taking the time to actually show someone the ropes and make sure that they're actually integrated into the team and that they're making a meaningful impact.
Lindsay, how do you do it? Because you really are dominant. You are in a position where most, if not all, are men, correct?
Yeah.
How do you bring in women? Are there women to bring in?
There are. Since I've had this role, I've brought in many women. I have someone on my team that works in China. She's the head of all metals for Asia, and that's a very big job, especially in China. And she was able to hire someone on her team who's also a woman. So there are 2 women running all of the metals for China for our company. There are no men, which is a big deal, like regionally and as a company. I've got a team in Europe, and we just gave someone more responsibility. She's a woman. She's going to be, someone else on my team is going to be mentoring her to eventually transition some responsibility. So it's about listening. People usually want to do more. They want to grow in their role. They communicate that to you. And it's your job as a manager to make sure that you give them the path. So you're giving them the resources they need to do that. And you want them to succeed. You eventually want them to kind of be able to take your job, right? Not that I plan on leaving, but they should be able to step into it.
And you want a female in the manager position.
Yes, I love that.
Christine, how have you been able to, you were talking about bringing in women and making them, have you had resistance, or has anybody noticed how, I call it our female superpower. It's like you said, we can get people together, we can motivate people, and Michelle, what you were talking about, how you get people together and the empathy and that sort of thing. That's amazing. Christy, are you having any resistance simply because everyone seems to be, when you're talking monetary funds and that sort of thing, it's very difficult to let that kind of emotion come in.
Yeah, no, actually, I would say one of the things that's really encouraging is how much more that's being accepted. I think the president last night said something about vulnerability, and I think that's definitely true. As women, we sometimes are afraid to look vulnerable, but more and more having that softer side to me, is becoming more accepted. I see that a lot in the day-to-day, and we're even in my department within the fund, where it's the statistics department, so it's a lot of very introverted. Some people are a little dry. I like to say I'm one of the few extroverts, but they're like looking around and they're saying like, we need to build a sense of culture, and we want the staff to enjoy working here, and like, what can we be doing? And who do they look to? They look to the women to figure out what's not working and how we can make it work better. So I would say not so much resistance, but actually an acknowledgement that the male leaders are saying, oh, we need to change something, and let's figure out a way to do it, and we'll ask the women to do it. I feel like I'm name dropping because I keep mentioning people, but Christine Lagarde, who's a former managing director at the IMF, now she's at the European Central Bank, she said something once about how they bring women in a time of crisis. So women, you often see companies, and they'll bring a woman in to lead it when they're in a time of crisis, because women know how to take stock of what's going on, figure out how to fix it. So that's what we do at home, and that's what we do in workplace.
And if I can build on that, I feel like women are very good at not being reactive. We play the long game, we look at everything on the table and come up with a solution, whereas others are like fire, like we need to solve it right now. And they're very short-term minded, which doesn't usually work out as we've seen.
That's a good point. And I think that I think I want to this time just go down and have everybody with the same answer, because we're dealing with men. We can't all the time. They're 49% of the population, okay, and a lot more in the workplace. How can you how can you recruit, how can you get male coworkers on board? How can they become your allies? Do you have male allies? You said you did, yeah, you all have male allies. How can we better use those? Because you're going to have to get in this workforce and work with men. What is your secrets? What are your secrets to male allies?
So, I had to prove myself first. So I had to know my stuff, going in and being confident. And once I showed I was confident, then I kind of put ideas in their head, like, I did that. And then you build them up, and then they see this is what we're supposed to be doing. We should build up women, but you have to build up the men too. And then they will do that for you as well. So you have to use them as allies. And yes, we play a game sometimes on here, but you give them compliments. You tell them they're doing a good job. You show that you could do a good job, and then they'll give it back to you. And if they don't, you take over their job.
Good point. Yeah, exactly. Michelle.
I've had a lot of really good male sponsors, I would say. If they are over 50% of where you're at, then you should probably make good friends with some of them, right? And in the end, people are people, right? You have some people that are great people and well-intended and that you connect with. You have some people that, you just don't connect with, and that's fine. So I think look for other people that really kind of, you feel when somebody sparks joy, right? Like for you, right? You feel like, hey, I can relate to this person. So I say no matter what the gender, kind of look for the people you relate with, who are attracted to the same types of missions as you are and have the same intent. And for those who are, kind of toxic or not healthy to your situation, let them go do that over there. Focus on where your power is and making a difference wherever job you have.
I mean, one word you used there I actually want to build off of, because you said intent. And one of the things that I've learned when you take a lot of leadership classes, they talk to you about dialogue and establishing positive intent. And this is this whole idea that we all, I guess the psych majors in the room probably know this, we come into a situation and we assume that we have the best of intentions, but we assume the other person has ill intentions, right? And so the idea is you have to establish and build that positive intent. And so I think that is something that as women, we are, again, are naturally we have a greater tendency to do. And recently I had a management evaluation done, and that was one of the things that they said I was off the charts. They said other things, maybe you maybe need to be more strategic, but when it came to relationship building, I was off the charts. And because again, it just sort of comes naturally. And you have to find your own little thing that you're going to do to make that connection with a male colleague. So I have one male colleague who is incredible at this. He knows every sports team. And I'm talking, I work with people from all over the world. So he'll say, oh, I saw that cricket match. And I'm just never going to be that person. I don't know what's going on with cricket. I mean, I love my football. They don't care to hear about American football when I'm at the International Monetary Fund. But I find my own thing. You know, I talk to them, I remember who their kids are. I ask them how their kids doing in high school. You know, again, the things that I have in common with them, I make those connections.
And men don't always do that. Okay, Eric.
Sure. I mean, I think the first step is it's important to find a place where you're going to find a male colleague, sort of what Michelle was saying. I've been in environments where there were men who had no vested interest or didn't want to take the time to mentor female lawyers. It was very apparent in that environment, and it is unfortunate, but that can still be the case. I have been fortunate enough, though, to move on to other environments where, you know, you have to prove yourself first, and you have to put in the work. My wife happens to also be a lawyer, and the chair of her group happens to work with only female lawyers. That's just the makeup of their group. And he once said that the reason that their team is all women is because they had to be that much better than everyone else. And I think that still certainly is the case. But once you prove yourself, and then you find an environment where you're going to find male allies who will champion you and will support you, that's the way to do it. Put in the work and get the win as part of the team for them, and they're going to, if it's the right male ally, they're going to want to showcase you, and they're going to want to support you, and they're going to want you to do well, because that's going to help them do well in the long run as well.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. I think what I would add is, and we talked about this in the breakout sessions earlier today, it's very important to know what you don't know, and to partner with others that are kind of filling in that gap. And you work as a team. Bring your strengths, they bring theirs, and you kind of showcase that together. Many times it is a man because that's who's in the office, right? That's who's working there. And as a manager, it's not your job to know everything. It's your job to build a team that collectively can work together to figure it out. And same for my manager. He's not the subject matter expert on aluminum. I am. So we have to present to the CEO on what's going on in the Middle East and how it's affecting aluminum. I'm the one doing that because he knows I'm bringing that expertise. He's bringing the expertise of these procurement processes and things like that. But it's important to highlight your strengths.
Exactly. And since you've all started here at Bethany, and for the students out there who are at Bethany right now, you can start practicing to get here by in your classes. Standing up, be sure and ask questions, raise your hand as much as the guys. This is where you can start getting used to guys dominating. I remember back the student government presidents. Most of our student government presidents were male. And, this is where you can really start doing that, becoming leaders. I want to start, I'm going to go again because I think that it's important for you to tell us how you started, when you started. What advice would you give to people who are starting? And by the way, a lot of our alums, there are some that are starting businesses now. So what advice would you give to people, women, starting?
So, starting out, being a doctor, I would love to tell you that I have this great story of why I want to be a doctor. I didn't. My friends were in college and they both want to be doctors, and so I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. They didn't end up going to med school, I did. So, starting out, you have a path, but that path might change, and it is up to you to decide. So I was a doctor doing clinical medicine, and I did it for 13 years. And I really enjoyed it, but a work-life balance, I didn't get to see my children as much. And so I had to go into it knowing that my wins will change as my life changes. And it's okay to completely change it. So you might have now in your head that you want to do this, but be able to change your path. And only you can do that. And make sure that whatever you're doing, you enjoy it. So that would be my advice from here on out. Have your path, have your goals, but be flexible with them. And it's up to you to make that path for you. The advice.
I love that. Yeah, that was really good. I was sitting here thinking, and we had a little bit of a pre-questions, and something came out that I wasn't expecting. I was like, I know this is about careers and things like that. What I would say is, you're not defined by your career. And I learned that when I was laid off a couple of years ago. And at that time, I was also getting divorced, and my parents died, all within a year, right? Other than that, but it was my best friends from here that supported me and sent me the Costco membership and care package, And in that moment, when I was like, well, gosh, I'm not this anymore, and I'm not this anymore, and I'm not this anymore. What the heck am I, right? And it was then that you realize, like, I'm a human here to enjoy the ride, right? And luckily, you do need money to eat and feed your children and things like that. I'm an 8-year-old. But really, I would just say that expect the unexpected and just know that you have the power within you to keep moving. And when you feel like you don't, there's always somebody who wants to help you out. Your mom, your sister, your friends, somebody else's friends. It was my sister-in-law that introduced me to her boss from 15 years ago that gave me this amazing opportunity to work at Deloitte. And he was a man.
You said that you got a whole opportunity there to realize yourself as a mother. And I think a lot of people need to think about that. You can do both.
100%. I seem crazy sometimes. I feel like run in with 10 minutes to pick them up from aftercare. We missed this meeting went late. Nobody's perfect.
They live through it, trust me.
But also, again, I think that's why in the workplace, people realize more and more that women are so good at their jobs because we do manage that every single day.
Multitasking, definitely.
I kind of want to build off of what Kelly was saying too. About this idea of a path, because one of the mistakes that I remember kind of as I was becoming a manager, I would see a lot of younger women making. And we know that the younger generation, as everyone keeps talking about, is like they're go-getters and they want everything now, which is great. Like, don't give up on that. Like, push for what you want. But don't let one setback kind of just make you give up or become jaded. I have one colleague, for example, she applied for a management position. It would have been her first time moving into management, and she was great, but she just wasn't the strongest candidate, and she just couldn't get over that setback. So she ended up leaving the organization. I had a similar experience. I tried to share this with her, but unfortunately she didn't heed my advice. And for me, I took the setback as, okay, this is a chance to learn. I went and talked with the hiring manager. I said, what can I be doing better to prepare myself for the next position that came up? When the next position became available, he actually came to me and said, we've got this position coming. I hope you'll apply for it. She didn't take that path. And when the next job came up, she wasn't there to apply for it. So always be willing to, not take a setback strictly as like that path is done for me. I can't do anything else. There could be something else coming down the line.
Erica?
This sort of builds on a lot of what's already been said, but first and foremost, I think you need to be kind and patient with yourself. I decided I was going to be a lawyer in 5th grade because I wanted to be a vet before that, and then I realized there would be a lot of sick animals, and that would make me sad. So I guess I kind of fell into the career.
And that's how some decisions are made. How do I feel? Yes.
So I thought I was going to be a corporate transactional attorney when I went to law school. I was like, this is what I want to do, mergers and acquisitions, and living in the corporate world. And I was in-house counsel for a few years of a small part of that. And now I'm basically the polar opposite of that in the field of law. I'm a litigator. But it's all about adapting to the challenges and the opportunities that are presented to you. You can't be, I think, so rigid with yourself and think you need to stay in this linear structure. So you have to have that kindness towards yourself, which I think as women sometimes we're not the best at doing. I just think that that's important. Work hard at what you're doing, but give yourself the grace to navigate it as you go.
Yeah, I think, so I would say 2 things professionally, and I probably have one for a personal side, but number one, women are fixers. We're very good at making things better, and you need to use that to your advantage. So no matter what your job is, look at your job and say, here's how it's working today. How can I make make this better, document that, because then you're going to ask for a raise later because you made it a lot better.
Get paid.
Yes,
Get
get paid. And but that's what we're good at. You know, this job is lacking in area X, Y, Z, and I think I can do it better. I can do it faster. I can get 10% more accomplished in a day, or whatever that may look like. And I'd say second, from a professional standpoint, is get comfortable being uncomfortable. It usually means you're growing. You're going to be stressed out. You're learning new things. I moved a couple states away when I was 25 to work for the same company, and I would leave there in tears because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stressed out. People are expecting so much of me, and I have no clue what to do. But I learned more there in 3 years there than anywhere else. You know, it's the best experience I've ever had professionally. And then personally, I would say, make sure you always have a hobby. And I'm honestly saying this for myself too, because I'm a mom and we're all new parents, so I am working and I'm being mom. That's it. And she's 8 now and she's in her own activities, and I was like, wow, someone asked me what my hobby is, and I'm like, I don't have one. You know, I don't do anything. And so I just started playing pickleball. But I think that's important. You have to have a life.
Okay, I want to go this way now, because now I want to ask kind of a hard question, but an easy question. What is the best part of your job? What is your favorite thing about your job? And it doesn't have to be, exactly dealing with your occupation. It could be, I just like to go in the morning. What's your favorite part?
Honestly, for me, I consider myself kind of an adrenaline junkie, and in global supply chain commodities, it's nuts. I mean, it's fast-paced. You have to make very high-impact decisions with very imperfect information, and I like doing that. I like seeing it at the end being the right thing. We made the right decision. Our plants are running. There's no disruption. That's, for me personally, that's what it looks like. And then I would say, at the end of the day, it kind of develops as you get older, what makes you feel good. I would say at the end of the day, you're like, okay, work-wise, did I do a good job? Did I make the right decisions? Was I a good parent today? Did I keep my house clean? Did I get, your priorities change, and I think that's part of the process.
And I bet you'll agree with me. There is something about Bethany that I think we all, when we graduate, have a little bit of that adrenaline junkie. Everyone I talked to last night, we just kind of all different like that. So we can take that one. Erica?
I think my favorite part of the job is just the problem-solving aspect. That's what I do as a litigator. You're presented with a problem and have to figure out a solution to it. The practice of law can sometimes be disenchanting because all of our clients aren't necessarily, sometimes they're corporate clients, and candidly, they're not always the most sympathetic of clients or things like that. I think a lot of us in various professions, certainly myself included, had aspirations of helping the little person. Certainly when I went into my profession, and that's not always the case. But part of that is I use my pro bono time to help the little person. For me, those are actually, apart from the day-to-day that I do, the most rewarding days that I have are the days in court, helping someone on a pro bono basis. It's a great way of giving back, and a great way of reminding little Erica, who started out as a baby lawyer, why I'm actually doing all of this.
I would say the thing I like most about work is connecting with people, and especially working for an international organization, I get to meet people from all over, which is really rewarding. So kind of similar to what Erica was saying about getting to help people out. We just had our big twice annual meeting, so we have people from all over the world, from the countries, coming to meet with the IMF. And in one meeting, I'm sitting there talking to someone from an emerging market country who's doing pretty well, looking to further advance their economy. And then in the next meeting, I'm meeting with people from Syria who are just coming out of a war. They're just trying to recreate their government out of nothing, and they're looking to us for support. So it's that immediate sense of, oh wow, what I am doing is actually going to make a difference here, and I really enjoy making those connections. Plus, just meeting people from all over the world is so interesting. It does sometimes make me feel a little bit simple, because I'm this American that only knows one language, and they all know 5, 6 different languages. But it is a great way to get to know the rest of the world.
Working with like different people to create new businesses or create this new idea or bring their idea to life, that's my funnest days. Like whether it's like some, minute, piece of technology that people might not get. I'm like, hey, that screen, that, policy engine, I helped do that. So kind of bringing new things to life and bringing them into the world for others to build on.
So I'll tell you about both the clinical and my non-clinical favorites. So clinical, being a doctor, my favorite was when someone came in and they're like, really, I didn't like coming to the doctor, but they liked to come in, and I was there for their wins and the good things. I was there for the tough times too, but they were my family. Like the patients were my family, and that was the joy of the job. It was also one of the reasons I left, because they were my family and then I was missing out on my real family too. So while it was my favorite part, it was the hardest part to leave. But the reason I left clinicals is to be with my family. So my new job, the joy is I get that balance. Like at 5 o'clock I'm done, but I still need to use my medical knowledge. But my other favorite thing is the women I work with. So we build each other up. We're saying, you did a great job. We're constantly learning. So the women I work with is my favorite part of my day at work. I like the job too. But it's camaraderie of the females that I work with.
And the females you work with, that you're a leader, you're all leaders. Going forward, what does authentic leadership look like? It's changed. When we think of leadership, we normally think of what the males think of as leadership. What do you see as leadership?
So leadership, you are there to be the leader for the team, but also being able to build up the people that are under you. Tell them they're doing a good job. Being a leader, being able to take constructive criticism. We're not going to know everything, but being able to listen to the people that are working underneath you. And not only just listening, reacting to what they're telling you. I know that if I have the leaders above me, I want to feel like what I'm telling them is heard, and there are changes made. So as a leader, I feel like you need to be able to listen, adapt, be able to tell people they're doing a good job, but also be able to tell them, when they need to do things differently, but in a good way, to where everyone feels good about it.
Michelle, what does that authentic female leadership look like for you?
I think it's changed a lot over the years. I think that when I first started out, it was kind of like, okay, I gotta know my stuff, gotta really be on, gotta be perfect, which doesn't work. Nobody is perfect. But working as a team and finding the best in everybody that you're working with and understanding who has what skills, and this is a little similar to what I said before, but really why your team needs her to work. Like what turns them on, what brought them in today. Because if you can tap into their passion, they're happier, you're happier, and it just makes a more creative, exciting environment. And I also think that, a lot of organizations are hierarchical. When I was at Microsoft, it was very flat. It was like, your 4 steps to whoever's in charge there was the idea, because no ideas and great ideas and creativity come from everywhere. It doesn't matter what level you are, how many years of experience you have. So in order to spark that creativity, we really need to make sure that all voices are heard and give avenues for voices to be heard. So.
Yeah, I think just agreeing so much with what's already been said, I think authentic female leadership is more empathetic leadership. It's listening to people, connecting with them, really trying to understand what drives them and how we can, as a team, achieve results. And I was reading a book recently called The Power Code by Katty Kay, a journalist, and they write about this idea about power, which is similar to leadership, right? And how the traditional male power is power over, and women are increasingly rejecting that model because we prefer the model that's more like power to. So how can we affect change as leaders? And that's what I really see as sort of like the future of leadership under women.
I certainly agree with everything that's been said so far, but to add on to that, I think certainly female leadership, and I think females are better in this regard than males, and again, sorry to generalize, but it's about earning respect rather than demanding respect, and you do that by listening to everyone on the team and getting the team excited and motivating them, and of course all of the same attributes that everyone else said, but I have seen
leaders try to demand that respect without giving the people on the team a reason why, and it's not going to work that way. You have to earn people's respect.
Yeah, a lot of excellent points already made. I think what I would add is that as women, we're very good at understanding how different everybody is on our team and what they need. You know, some people need to have a daily check-in of here's what's going on. Some people want to have a weekly one-on-one to talk about their personal life. But understanding what everybody needs, some people need to be praised all the time. You know, maybe they want to make sure that you're giving them credit, you're making sure that they can present to the executives. Everybody needs something different, and we're very good at understanding that.
Yes, we are. That's where we can really win. We've talked about what to do, what worked. Now, we all have also worked with women that didn't work so well with us, okay? And we've got to address that. What should you not do nowadays if you're trying to do? What experiences? Go ahead and say it. You can change the names for posterity, but
I would love to.
Yeah, exactly. If they're on record, you go right ahead. But yeah, if whoever has horror stories about women.
I have a story, and I will not share names, and I'll try to be general about this. But I had what I would consider, frankly, a toxic and somewhat traumatic experience in my profession with a female leader, and it was rooted a lot in this micromanaging and microaggressions of control, where control wasn't needed. You know, sort of trying to make other people unhappy by creating problems where they didn't exist. And I struggled candidly a lot with that for several years in my career because I'm, you know, very much a people pleaser and I'm very empathetic. And so and I wanted to do a good job, and I let that start to really take its toll on me. And I started to have a lot of resentment just toward the profession in general. As I grew older, I guess, and more experienced, though, I started to create boundaries and set boundaries because those unhealthy relationships can be so damaging in the workplace. And they could have been, you know, this disappointing factor that made me either want to change careers or, you know, change something entirely. But instead of doing that, I slowly started gaining confidence in myself because also I was being gaslit. That sometimes I thought, well, do I know what I'm doing, or am I actually as good as I think that I am at what I do? And once I started creating those boundaries and sort of just not letting it affect me so much on a personal level, I was able to extract myself from that environment and situation, and you know, I'm much happier now because of it. But it was a great learning experience for me. It was, you know, an unfortunate experience, and I hope that other young females don't experience the same thing. But boundaries are important.
Never quit. Keep going, and if you have to go home and cry at night for years, it's okay if you don't quit. Okay, any nightmares? Yeah, Christina. Really? Have you got it?
So my first female boss, right? I was so excited. Here's my first female boss, and the very first thing she did was she came in and we were in a meeting, and she hands me her BlackBerry and wants me to type an email for her, and I was not her assistant. And I also never used a BlackBerry, by the way, so I was like. But, you know, one of the things was I think she meant well, and she was sort of like of the old guard, and I say this is no offense to the older women here, because I think the fact that you're here shows that you want to help the younger women. I think she thought she wanted to help the younger women, but she didn't. She did it in a very critical way. So she used to criticize the way that I spoke. And again, I think she was trying to help me, but it almost kind of hindered me because it made me less confident right at a point when I was moving up in my career and I was having to speak publicly more often. So, and then the funny thing is, then I come to the IMF, and I was always worried about, you know, saying a word incorrectly or something. And now I realize people from all over the world, they have different accents. We all say things differently, and we still communicate with one another. It's fine. But she would just have a very critical way of sharing that feedback. So I guess that would be my advice to women who are trying to like kind of pass on your knowledge is, you know, do it in a way that's going to be helpful. Don't do it as a, well, when I was coming up, it was hard, and you had to do everything perfectly. So, I mean, she actually told us that once. You ladies had it easy now. It was hard when I was coming up. And, you know, what are we supposed to do with that feedback? Because we still see challenges, you know, in our day, so we couldn't really make much of that advice she was giving.
very constructive, that's for sure. And that passive aggressive, I've run into that so much that drives me crazy. Okay, next night.
I'm trying to figure out how to say this without saying too much, to be honest. But there are a lot of this. There are some women that want to be the only woman at the table, and they want to make sure that it was just as hard for you as it was for them to get there. Instead of, we're paving the way to make that easier and make everything more available to women. But those women are out there, and you need to watch out for them. Because,
What did you do? What do you do?
I mean, to me, I dealt with it, and that's how I know not to be. I'm never going to treat my team that way. I remember whenever, HR moved, they did a reorganization, and I was reporting to her, and someone else said, she's going to be able to handle you. And I was like, well, first off, nobody can handle me. But I had to deal with it. That was my job. I wasn't leaving. And that's just, it honestly has taught me what not to do.
Makes a lot of sense. Kelly?
Well, I think with women, I've had some stories with women where they weren't looking out for you. It was almost like a jealousy thing. Like they felt like they were purposely undermining you when this is not what we should be doing. We should be uplifting the women. So I've run into that where, this is not our job. We are not here to compare ourselves to other people. We're on our own journey, our own path. What we should be doing is helping each other. So I've run into women who were not there to help me. They were actually there probably to put me under the table. And then again, it makes you realize this is not how I want to be or what. So it actually makes you a better person. And then also I've had women who come in and they don't want to communicate and they don't want to listen to, they know their way and they're not going to change. We need to be able to go in knowing we don't know everything. And so I've run into those women who, they were said, this is how it's done, this is why it's done, and you say, well, maybe I know a different way that's better, or maybe I don't, and you can explain it to me. But I ran into women who were not compromising at all. So that was not helpful to me. Again, told me that's not how I wanted to be. So it helped me in the long run, but it was not helpful.
How did you deal with it at the time? You just ignored them, or you just tried to talk them into a better
There was
way?
no talking them into them. So if they're not going to compromise, then I knew that. So it would hurt me to continue to work with people who were not going to compromise. So I made my own way. And then leadership saw that maybe the way I was doing it was a little bit better. And so I think it took other people telling them that we're higher up than me at their level or me under their level. They did not want to hear it. So it just helped me in the long run know that, I have to do it the way I feel, but always being open for communication and knowing that maybe I don't know the best way to do things, but being willing to listen to others.
Yeah, I really resonate with this, hey, there can only be one woman in the room thing. I would say there's enough success for everyone, right? There's enough success for everyone. And the other thing I would say is, don't be afraid so I had this one woman and I was befriending her. I was so excited, one of my female bosses at this one place that I was at, and wasn't interested in helping me succeed. I tried to do all kinds of helpful things. I even took notes, which I don't take notes for people. And I realized that, and now something that somebody told me really resonates with me. I had a vehicle that recently got rats in it. I spent months trying to get these rats out of this vehicle with the insurance company. And then one day, the vehicle's 8 years old, and it was in great shape. But one day somebody said to me, you don't have to get the rats out. You could just go buy, you just told me that you wanted to buy another car, you had the money to do it, just go buy another car. So I went and bought my dream car. So I would say that,
good analogy.
Those rats to something else. But, I would say people that are toxic in the workplace are kind of like that.
Very good. Rats to somebody else. That's it. I've got one more question. Very quickly, we're going to go speed round. What advice would you give your old self here at Bethany?
Have fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. You only have this time once. That's what I would say. Have fun and enjoy the now.
Yeah, enjoy every moment and just know, the best laid plans go sideways. So just trust in yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, don't sweat the small stuff. Like, I just remember being so hung up on, like, one thing that happened to me early in my career, and then a few years later realized it wasn't important at all, so.
Yeah, just don't panic. It's going to be okay. There are so many experiences in life, and be in the present, enjoy the moment, and know that everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I would say spend all the time with your friends. I mean, you're never going to live this closely to your best friends ever again. And Bethany friends are your friends for life.
We're going to take some questions from the audience or the panel, and so stage of you that listen.
All right, so this is for anyone on the panel who wants to answer, but sometimes it's great, we talk about how women are empathetic, we're connectors, we like to make friends, and we make friends with people in the workforce, but not everyone that we work with is our friend. Can you talk about how perhaps maybe one talks about in the beginning of your career, what it was like to make sure you had boundaries, to make sure you weren't, like, you understood. I have a supervisor who's not going to be my friend. They're not here to be my friend. And then maybe talk about when you are in a leadership role, what it's like to make sure you have maintained boundaries. Say, I'm here to mentor, I'm here to pull you up, I'm here to celebrate you, but we're still perhaps not friends. Maybe talk about that boundary.
I mean, yeah, I'll say what I was resonating with was your question was the last part about, so twice now in 2 different agencies, I've shifted from being like a peer to being then those people's manager. And it is challenging. And actually, recently I got some feedback on how to give hard feedback. And I think I'm very good at this. You know, I was sitting there and I had this evaluation and I said, I fired people. Like, I fired a lot of people. So I should be able to give negative feedback. But I struggle with it when it's my peers. Not even just, or my friends, people that used to be my friends. And it's not even just that you're friendly with them, it's that I kind of see it as like, oh, we're all in this together, we're just working on this project together, and if it doesn't succeed, it's like, oh, that was tough, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. But knowing that I really had to like give them the feedback, like, I need you to be doing something differently, was challenging. And the really good feedback that they gave me was, you have this great relationship capital with these people. Like, you have this rapport, you hear all the time about how you're a good empathetic leader. So use it. Like, you can give them that tough feedback and they're not gonna, hate you, right? Because as a manager, it's like the Michael Scott from, you don't want to be hated by your team. But I thought it was just such a light bulb when they said that to me, because it sounds so obvious, but I am afraid sometimes of oh, I don't want to upset people, and I know they all mean well, but you have to be tough and give them that tough feedback, or just say listen, this is what didn't work well, we need to do it differently next time. And that's the other key, is focus on the future. If there's no point in spending a lot of time rehashing what happened in the past, let's talk about how do we find a better solution going forward, and together we find the solution, right? So that's how you kind of maintain that relationship. That's the best I can offer.
Okay, we have another question back here.
Hi, I'm Marie Banks. I graduated in 2024. This question is for the whole panel. A little background. I won horses here, and it was my greatest passion, being on the equestrian team, and it's now given me my greatest skill in my career, being a barn manager. So I wanted to know, what passion did you have that started at Bethany that is now your greatest skill in your career now?
Well, I think at Bethany, it was the social aspect. We were talking about how this college is so small. So, you had to go out and talk to people. There was no distractions. So it helped me, the passion of getting to know people that were different from me. And it helped with networking later on in life. So when I went to med school, there were people from Bethany there. When I went to my residency, I knew people from there, or people that were in my sorority. So I feel like my passion of getting out of I was forced to. You were forced to walk and talk to someone. We didn't have phones. There was no phone service here. So you had to get out and go, and it really helped with that social aspect that I might not have gotten in a big, giant campus where I wasn't forced to go out and meet all the people. So that was my passion, meeting people, because I was really not that sociable person. But it kind of broke me out of my shell and helped me longer in life. And that's where, I meet people from Bethany everywhere I go. It's crazy for a small school.
Go down the road.
I would say maybe being a good friend, because at Bethany, you're living with your friends, which is not what you're doing before college or most of the times after college. So you learn to really care about people in a different sense than what you did before. You care about their well-being. Did they get home from levels okay? I would say that. I definitely value being a good friend and having good friends.
My answer is something I kind of touched on earlier, where I really enjoyed connecting with people from all over the world and learning about other languages and cultures. I studied Spanish while I was here. I said earlier I only speak one language because I can't speak Spanish, even though I studied it for years. Sorry, Dr. Romano. But no, that's what I really loved, and I turned that into my passion. I was working for the U.S. government producing economic statistics, and I would go to these meetings and I would hear how people from all over the world were doing my same job, but in their country's context, and I just thought that was like the most amazing thing ever. So then I came to the IMF to help teach other countries how to do the work that we do. And I thought that was a great way to get to know people from all over the world, but also I think, in this day and age, as we've been kind of alluded to earlier, like the environment is changing in this country, and I think it's so important for people to be open-minded and to be interested in meeting people from other places and not to be afraid of people that are different than us. And that, this goes back to some of what was being discussed last night, that is what makes Bethany so special.
Yeah, so there was when I was driving here, I was like, I felt so supported here. People would be in different fraternities, different sororities. We'd meet up and hang out, and they're still my friends, and I went to study abroad. And so you kind of learn to be a good community member and be accountable. You can't be a jerk. You're going to see this person, right? So you really need to be accountable for your actions. And if you do something that's not, your best self, you say, hey, I'm sorry. I was kind of drunk last night, right? So I think it helps you be a good community member being here in a small school.
One thing I would add, I guess, I said last night to my wife as we were driving off of campus that I feel like I became a human being here at Bethany because I took every experience that the school offered and I think took advantage of it. Things like traveling abroad, I was able to go to Moscow, the Gambia in West Africa, things like that. Those experiences gave me the confidence to develop into the person I am today, develop the traits that I have today. And without those experiences at Bethany, I don't think I'd be who I am today. So whatever experiences that appeal to you, I think just take full advantage of them and they'll help you become who you want to be.
We got another one. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm in class of 2027. As women, we hear a lot about breaking through the glass ceiling and working hard to do that. This is for anybody who wants to answer, but did you ever have a moment in your career where you felt that you finally broke through the glass ceiling, or do you continue to fight it every day? And how do you deal with that fight?
Yeah, I would say I had a moment, but back about 10 years ago, where I was like, I made it. I made it, right? I'm on a big stage talking to people at this conference, and they paid me to speak in Vegas, and it was so cool. And then all of a sudden I realized, there's no glass, right? There's no glass, right? So just, and am I happier now that I've gotten to this thing? Or what do I do now? So it's always scary, when you hit where you think you wanted to get all along. So I would just say, there's no measure to life, right? Success and this job title isn't who you are. It's not where you're trying to go. So enjoy the journey.
I would add to that because I had a similar experience. So starting out in the government, I worked my way up relatively quickly. I became a member of the senior executive service, which is kind of the highest civil servant before you become an appointed political appointee in the U.S. government at age 35. And I remember being in this meeting, it was a training for SES, and they were saying, oh, we have to talk about millennials in the workforce because we have millennials in the workforce now. And I, as a millennial, an elder millennial, I said, you have millennials in your SES force as well, your leadership force that you may not have realized. So that was kind of like my, not glass ceiling, but that was when I knew I kind of made it. And then I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy in that job. And that was when I left and came to the IMF, and I actually took a step back from management, and then eventually went back into management, but I was ready for it now. So don't be afraid to also realize if that path isn't what you want, and take a step back.
I came home from work. I was a doctor. I came home from work. My husband, he had a great job, but we had kids, and I made more money than him. So he quit his job, and he's a stay-at-home dad. And so I came home, I propped my feet up, he made me dinner, and I had a drink. And I was like, I have made it. I was like, I have a 1950s house. I'm a husband. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. That's terrible. But we are a partnership. He does way more than me. He is way better at being domestic than I am. And we know our strengths. So I felt like I hit, and then I was like, wait, every stage of my life, there's going to be a different glass ceiling on here. So my life is completely different than it was then when I said I made it on here. So just know that your glass ceiling will change if there is a real glass ceiling. But it doesn't have to be that where you feel like you've made it. You could have just a great day at work and you felt like you've hit your glass ceiling. So we have to let ourselves have our wins. Have a win every day. That's what I would tell my patients. Was there one good thing that happened that day? Then your day was great. So think about the positives. There will be negatives. But my glass ceiling was that day that my husband served me my drink and my meal.
Can I just add, because I think we've been like a little bit man-hating. This is a really important point. My husband was a stay-at-home dad for a while as well. I'm also a breadwinner, and we've been talking a lot about having male allies. It's also really nice when you have a good male partner or a female partner, but you have a partner in your domestic life that can help. That's how you can be successful as well, when you know things are taken care of at home.
Okay, got another question.
Hi, I'm Grace, I'm class of 2028. So I think that one shared experience among many women is a feeling of obligation or responsibility, especially when you're so used to being in leadership positions all your life. What advice would you give to a woman who feels that they have to take on all that responsibility or all those obligations in order for something to be accomplished?
I would say you have to know that you cannot do it all, and you have to learn to delegate. And if you are a leader, you're building a team that you can delegate to, and everyone plays their part.
Also, sometimes if things don't happen, things don't get done, and nobody notices, then maybe that thing didn't need to get done. That's a lesson I had to learn.
Hi, my name is Ariana. I'm in class of 2029. What's something women are told about leadership that you think is completely wrong? And how did you deal with coming to the realization that it was wrong?
You don't have to be mean, right? So I think there's this concept that if you're not an aggressive female, now certainly you can be assertive, and those are great qualities to have as a female leader, but this notion that you have to be sort of like a cold and unapproachable human being, that's the antithesis, I would think, of what being a female leader is, actually. I think lean in instead to the characteristics that are inherent in us, and those are all different across the board, but I think generally, we tend to be more empathetic, more communicative, and those things. It's okay to be those things and to be assertive, but without being, I guess, necessarily so aggressive as sometimes we're told that we need to be.
I think that's, something I found was that because I was the woman, they would kind of give me these little pet projects, right? Like nice things to do around the office or this or that, plan parties, which is nice. I like to plan a party. I would say though, make sure you focus on where you're trying to go, where your organization needs to go, right? Like sometimes it's okay to say no. I don't have the bandwidth to do that. it's also okay to fail. To say, hey, we tried that, it didn't quite work out. Well, let's go do it another way. So I think kind of failing and things that kind of make us shake, right? Like failing and saying no.
Got another question over here.
Hi, I'm Autumn, class of 2087. I was wondering, how do you balance being cold and stronger with also being empathetic and obviously nice to the people around you while still in growing within your position in a more male-dominated field?
Well, you said it's a balance. So you have to show respect and give respect. So it's a balance back and forth. So you don't want to come off as cold, but you do have to be, if people work below you, someone said being a friend to them. Yes, there are colleagues, and they may be your friend, but it is a balance. You have to be approachable, listen, and actually act on what they're telling you. And I feel like that's so important in being a good leader. So you don't want to come off as cold, but you also want to come off as knowing, you know what, they come to you to ask questions. You want to be there as support, but you also have to have ground rules that, you are the leader, you're the team leader, delegate. You'll be able to do that. But again, it's a balance. Respect, give respect, show respect, a balance back and forth between you and your team.
Yeah, and I think too, just knowing there's a time and a place, and you'll learn that in whatever your role may be. For me personally, I do a lot of high level negotiating, and when I'm in a negotiation with somebody, I do have to be a little bit cold. Here's my position, here's why, I'm sticking to it. I'm not going to be like that with my team every day.
Any other questions from the floor? Oh, hey.
While she's getting to that question, I have a question. Today we talked a lot about winning, competing in male-dominated workforces. So the reality is, though, we have a lot of competition from large universities, right? We may be looking at career changes, we may be looking at our first job out of college or after our graduate degree. So my question would be, what is one word or one line that you would give as advice to everyone in this room, how you rise to the top, to be the cream of the crop, to get the job, to get the new job, and not necessarily about competition necessarily, but what is that one thing that you would feel as perhaps an intangible even?
I would use the word reliable, and I'm stealing this, because where is Jennifer, by the way? Where is she? Yeah, your session was so good. I just wanted to copy everything off the first line. But being reliable, be the person that says they're going to do something and then does it. That all of what we were talking about earlier about how women get things done, that's what we need. And so when your female colleague comes to you and is like, oh my gosh, so-and-so's asked me for this thing and I really got to get it done, help them out with it, be reliable.
That was my word.
Sorry.
So I'll say trustworthy. People trust that you're going to do it.
Yeah, and network. Use the people, use your Bethany contacts. I know I gave my number out to people. Use us. You need to sometimes have someone that already is in the door to get your foot in the door. So use us. We are here to help. So network with the people around you.
I would say grit and drive and tell your story. So I started so many job interviews earlier. I went to a small liberal arts school. My parents worked in the steel mill, the oldest of four and the first to go to college. And you wouldn't imagine how that kind of off-put somebody a little bit. I didn't know it at the time. I just told my story because, you are competing with other people who have relationships or maybe went to, have a lot of people on the network. So make yourself different. That's what makes you special.
Erica, do you have anything to add?
This kind of piggybacks off of what's been said, but integrity, and that's people need to be able to count on you, they need to be able to trust you, and that's both the people on your team, your colleagues, the people you're working with, but the other professionals, in my case, that might be judges and lawyers, things like that. Your integrity is everything in the professional field.
Hi, my name's Addie. I'm trying to get into the actuary science field, the insurance kind of world, and something I struggle with now is when the people above me or sometimes my peers have a plan that I'm a part of and that I don't necessarily agree with, and I think we could be doing something a different way. How exactly would I go about maybe voicing my opinion, like, hey, maybe we should do it this way, or if I can't and like that plan doesn't work, what can you recommend with going about that?
I can't speak to that field specifically, of course, but I would say always stick to the facts. So if you're making a recommendation, say, here's what I think we should do, and here's why. Here's what we're going to accomplish quicker, whatever that may be, if we do it this way. So have the backup, have the explanation.
I've also said, like, hey, I've done this way over here. Do you think that might work over where we're at now? And sometimes, maybe the timing, somebody said before, sometimes an idea is just too early for other people to hear it, right? Like, they've done it in a particular way over and over again, and they hear this perspective, and they just want to get it done because they trust the way they've always gotten it done. So I said, don't give up on it, maybe let that one go, okay? But, come back to it when the timing's right.
Any other questions? Oh, one over here.
Hi, my name is Brooke, and as you guys are all have very demanding careers, I just wanted to ask, how do you balance domestic life or, for example, having kids as you're coming up in your careers? Like, how does that all work out together to be successful in your professional world and also have a family?
It's very hard. I would say you have to set a boundary. You have to decide what that boundary is. Having a demanding job means, in the evening, sometimes you are going to have to hop on a call or whatever that looks like, whatever you're doing. But that should not be the norm. And if it's the norm, I think that's when you have a conversation with your manager and say, look, this is not what I'm getting paid to do. Pay me more, maybe I'll do it. But you have to set the boundary. You have to decide what that looks like for you.
And I would say, there are going to be weeks, days, maybe sometimes even months where you're going to be super busy, and go ahead and grind for that time, right? But it can't be all the time. So when you have the time to set the boundaries and you don't have a bunch of deadlines or a major project you're working on, spend time with your family, prioritize your friends, prioritize whatever it is that is your life outside of your career. Because as someone said earlier, your career, it's what you do, but it's not who you are.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that's been said. I think it's so important to have a network as much as you can, or to have a partner that you can rely on, and you're going to have those busy times. Like this week for me was insane. I had to be in DC every day for long days. My husband just knew he was on the whole week. Like he had to take my son everywhere he had to be, and he had to make dinner, and sometimes he doesn't like to make dinner, so they went out, and that's fine, like the kid got fed. That was the point. And so I think the other thing too is you have to kind of choose what you really care about. And so for me, like when my son was really little, there were certain things that I remember my mom being there for, and she stayed at home. So I said, I'm going to be there for that thing, and I took off. Unfortunately, I had the flexibility with my job that I could do that. But then there's other things where you're like, parent-teacher conference? My husband can take that one. He's got it. So you kind of have to choose the things that matter to you too. Again, you always want to choose your family at the time that you can, but maybe within that space, there's some things that are less important.
I would say you need to set your own boundary because no one's going to help set it for you. And that sounds real easy, or very oversimplistic. And it took me a while to get there, right? I used to travel all the time. I used to be on weekends. And then when I had my son, I was afraid to tell people that I was adopting a child because I was like, they're not going to give me the next promotion. That was a totally erratic fear, I think, right? Because in the end, like these men, a lot of them have families. A lot of them have kids. And once I realized that everybody actually is just human here, and start having more human conversations like, hey, I can't work weekends. I don't look at my email on the weekend. Maybe there's something big that I have to. So it's kind of prioritizing, what action needs to get done, but then also holding the boundaries. Like, I can't take calls I don't take calls, I choose not to, right? Between 5 and 9. And it's a choice. You always have choice. Just remember that.
It's hard. So doing my medical school, I missed out on a lot of things. Residency, after I left, there was a rule that we couldn't work 36-hour shifts. I was like, I was at the hospital for 36 hours. I mean, we were working 60, 70-hour work weeks, but there were women that I worked with that had children during residency, and they made it work. And I think that's the thing about women is we do tend to make it work, but you have to set boundaries, and you can say no to things. Like, it's okay to say no. There are things that are important that you have to do, but it's okay to say no to the stuff that isn't, as important, and that is in your life and at your job. You can say no to things. No is a complete sentence, is what some people say. You don't have to give a reason. No. Like, if someone invites me to do something and I didn't really want to do it, and I'm like, no, I've got this and this and this and this. My sister can just say, no, I'm not coming. And I credit her for that, and I wish I could do that in life. No, it is a complete sentence. But it is boundaries. It is hard. But all of us have different lives. So what works for me may not work for you. And I had to find that balance. I had to step away and do something completely different. Felt like I lost an identity. But I did it, and it worked for me. Right? So it's okay, again, to completely change everything. But boundaries and saying no, I would say, is very important to make that work.
Who in this room is afraid to say or hates to say no? Okay. Do you have one more question?
I think we have time for one more. Is there anyone that had a question? We're about at time.
Okay, I do have one last question for the panel. I used to do this news business, so can you sum up your experience this weekend? I'd like to hear your perspective. What's one word you would take away from this weekend that would describe it to the audience?
I would say I'm impressed. I think I'm very impressed by all the women that showed up, current students and alumni, and engaged. I mean, I think that's, I had people approach me last night at the reception, and that can be a scary thing to do when you're young, and I think everyone did great.
Nothing like being put on the spot, right?
I don't want to use the same word, but I sort of agree with the sentiment. This is my first time at this weekend, and the sort of the camaraderie and the whole experience has been really welcoming and enlightening, and I'm just really proud to see this many women, and especially a lot of the young women I know. There are a lot of athletic events today that prevented some of the students from being here, but the engagement has been really great, and I look forward to contributing to this going forward.
I would say hopeful, because I'm feeling very encouraged about the future of our country with this group of women coming up.
Yeah, I would say inspiring. Just even that those questions were so thoughtful and thought-provoking, and, good job. Good job.
Yeah, I would say I'm excited. This is great. All of you are great. I'm so proud of all of you for coming and asking the questions and being able to be here. So excited about the future.
Tori, would you answer that as well, please? One word.
I was just, I thought of
Oh, okay. Overachiever, Mike. I need the mic.
It would have to, it's impressed, it's inspired, but enthusiastic. This whole weekend, I'm coming away with an energy, but also a little bit of nostalgia on why we are all who we are, and just hopeful that you know what an opportunity Bethany is and what an opportunity this is. A Women in Leadership Conference. This is something, when I said I was coming here, people were like, oh my gosh, you must have gone to a huge university or an Ivy League school, or oh my gosh, and they're recognizing women. And I'm like, it's Bethany, and of course I expected it to be Bethany, because we have a bigger percentage of successful people, I think, than any other college or university. We really do. Every class has just done remarkable things. So, in a way, I would say, expect it. Expect it.
Thank you very much. Sage, I'm going off script for a second because we got some extra gift cards. So I thought we'd focus on alums today with this part. Who came the furthest to attend this weekend? Anyone outside of the tri-state area? I know. How about? I know Sage is in New York. Rhode Island. Who's Rhode Island? Kathy. Okay. Anybody further west? I know Scarlett's in St. Louis. I don't know the map that far. Rhode Island. I'm sorry, Florida. Okay, that's far. I might beat you out, but maybe not. All right. I think Florida's the winner. All right, next one for alums. Who has been retired the longest but felt that this was worth it to still come? Anybody retired more than 10 years? Still here. Okay, how about more than 12 years? Okay, I picked the wrong question. No, I'm kidding. No, you always support us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stage. Sorry, I hijacked that.
Well, thank you to all of our panelists. Round of applause for them. That was